States of America, hundreds of billions of dollars. Democrat Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs involved in a pay-to-play scheme. Oh, boy.
Looks like the governor is heading into a tough re-election fight with a legislative investigation that could hang over her entire campaign next year. A state contractor that scored a $4 million payday after giving her a very generous political contribution.
Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell saying she will not stand down in an investigation into a group home which made substantial donations to Governor Katie Hobbs and is now accused of being part of an alleged pay-to-play scheme.
Well, both the AG's office and the Maricopa County Attorney are looking into this. Did this company benefit because of those donations? At the same time, the state was making cutbacks and denying contracts to others.
Reports say local group home Sunshine Residential Homes gave around $400,000 to the governor and state Democratic Party. Later, DCS awarded Sunshine.
That is all I'm going to say right now.
Katie Hobbs. Well, all the other stuff is going on. Sometimes we forget it, right? About Arizona, huh? But yeah. She's in big trouble. President Trump also put this out for all of us. The United States did not attend the G20 in South Africa because the South African government refuses to acknowledge or address the horrific human right abuses endured by Afrikaners. So, the other descendants of Dutch, French, and German settlers. To put it more bluntly, they are killing white people and randomly allowing their farms to be taken from them. Perhaps worst of all, the soon-to-be out-of-business New York Times and fake news media won't issue a word against this genocide. That's why all the liars and pretenders of the radical left media are going out of business. At the conclusion of the G20, South Africa refused to hand off the G20 presidency to a senior representative from our U.S. Embassy who attended the closing ceremony. Therefore, at my direction, South Africa will not be receiving an invitation to the 20th. Venezuela, all the stuff going on down there. Remember that Smartmatic Dominion has ties in Venezuela. Oh, starting to make sense, isn't it? And so these illegals, when they get in and they illegally vote and they put their people in, and then they start saying, we want the laws changed our direction, for our religion, for our Sharia law, for our beliefs. We want to change this country, the United States of America, to what we want. Never forget.
Just so we're clear, if a foreigner comes to your country and demands that you accept their culture as your culture, or demands that you change your beliefs, that is not a foreigner. That is not an immigrant. What that is an invader. That is someone that is coming over to your space to take over and invade it. So when you sit there and you look at what's happening in New York, you look at what's happening.
Came to light this summer. 2 people pleaded guilty in federal court to being paid to help register voters. In all, 500 to 600 fraudulent voter registration applications were submitted to election officials in offices in 13 Minnesota counties.
Hi there, Frank. It was some sharp election workers in Carver County who realized the names and addresses on the voter registration forms did not match with any county residents. Prosecutors charged 2 people with 1 count each of voter registration fraud. According to the charging documents, the 2 were paid by an unnamed foundation to help register voters. The 2 defendants pled guilty this summer and have since moved out of state. The scope of the 2-year FBI and state investigation was not previously known.
And it's very significant that they said today it was 13 counties, between 500 and 600 fake voter registrations. And that's just from 2 of the independent contractors that worked with this group.
The investigation involves scouring hundreds of records.
On guidance from the FBI, the voter registration applications were mailed directly to the election lead, and instructions were shared to use gloves when handling the forms.
In testimony before the committee, Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon says the system designed to catch voter fraud worked.
This is a case about individuals who conspired to submit false voter registration applications. This is not a case about fraudulent votes. And this is ultimately a case of the system working.
How many were in the system is challenged.
Republican Committee Chair Kristen Robbins, who is running for governor, says she has additional concerns that the unnamed foundation that paid the 2 workers is funded by state taxpayer dollars.
99% of their budget comes from state grants. So this is a group that the state is funding, and that then went out and did these voter registrations.
Now, the hearing left.
Yeah. Just keeping up with what's going on over there in old Minnesota. News Nation even found. They went to the federal courthouse in Minneapolis, learned from federal sources. Somalians in Minnesota haven't stolen millions, they stole billions.
Did money from Minnesota taxpayers earmarked to feed hungry children wind up in the hands of a Somali terrorist group? The allegations center around a massive welfare fraud case being brought in Minnesota. A 78th defendant was charged just today. And now reports are coming out that some of the stolen money may have wound up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, a Somali-based terror group. In response, President Trump says he intends to end deportation protections for about 700 Somali nationals in Minnesota, calling Minnesota a, quote, hub for Somali gang networks.
For over a decade, people literally showed up to vote in hopes that there was a candidate that would somehow wipe away their student loan debt. No one has been successful yet. Until the Trump administration announced to the Department of Education that they would be redefining professional degrees for this next generation of individuals who are pursuing post-education. A lot of people are upset, but they don't realize that the administration evaluated statistical data for which came out of the Department of Labor, identifying critical fields with existing workforce shortages. Therefore, placing caps on Fed loan programs, which is going to force the hand of institutions to lower their tuition. This is probably the closest you're going to get to affordability and quality of life.
Pretty amazing. Affordability, quality of life, easier debt payoff, reviving community colleges for pre-programs. Well, all this is playing out. You go to some of the universities and listen to what they're up to.
Segregated graduation ceremonies, meaning?
Segregated graduation ceremonies.
That's right. After the main convocation at Harvard for a number of years, this is a story that I broke, they had separate, racially segregated graduation ceremonies.
Asked for by who?
Administrators, the DEI bureaucracy, and they had for Black, Asian, Latino,
but to be clear,
LGBT.
To be clear, this is not white people asking for separate white ceremonies. This is minorities asking for their own separate.
Correct.
Okay.
And the university provided.
Trying to steal all these seats, right? The Democrats across our country working together. Well, it's not working anymore. The Indiana House Committee in charge of redistricting has unanimously approved the state's new U.S. House maps, which would give Republicans new seats in Congress. Full House and Senate votes coming soon. Gavin Newsom is hardest hit. All Republican states must follow suit. We got that and other great news from President Trump.
And I believe that at some point in the not too distant future, you won't even have income tax to pay because the money we're taking in is so great, it's so enormous that you're not going to have income tax to pay. Whether you get rid of it or just keep it around for fun or have it really low, much lower than it is now, but you won't be paying income tax. We've slashed $1 trillion.
Income tax. You won't be paying income tax. To be involved in their lives, but they certainly don't need to come over to our country and destroy it the way that they're doing now. If microplastic plaque is discovered in your arteries, veins, you are 4.5 times more arteries. A by cause levels are lower than ever. Damage. BPA kimchi, lower health and digestion. Or call. Again, that's 888-3.
How do you guys feel about this?
9941. Click in the description box below.
Do you guys think St. Cloud has been taken over by Somalis?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about the Somali takeover?
Get up!
I don't know.
You don't want them here?
I mean, we can't.
I'm fine with them. It's just that, it's overpopulated.
Do you feel like they're going to eventually overpopulate the Americans here?
Yeah, they definitely will.
And did you guys vote for them to come here? As far as like, did you guys have to pass any legislation in order to receive them?
No.
In your personal opinion, what's the biggest issue with them being here inside of you guys' city?
Driving. It's always a car crash for no reason.
Robbing people.
Yeah, definitely crime. Pirates.
And the correlation between the Somalis and Muslims, are the majority of them all Muslims?
Yeah.
So 10 years from now, do you guys think the Somalis will be the majority here?
Yeah, definitely.
They'll be the majority here. That's from the locals. And they need them to stay. They need criminals to come over. Why? Because criminals have no problem committing crime or voting illegally. You know, Democrats are blocking. They're blocking. Representative Eli Crane openly says Democrats are rigging elections with illegals voting, and that would include Somalia, folks. Democrats, they're blocking the simple question that asks you, are you a U.S. citizen on the next census? Democrats are letting illegals vote in their elections. They're blocking voter ID. They blocked the SAVE Act.
Here to fight for every single person in our country, to make sure they have fair representation, and to make sure that we are funding our states adequately. We are not here to try and rig elections so that more Republicans win. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Crane from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague just said we're not here to rig elections to make sure that Republicans win more elections. That's exactly what you guys are trying to do. You guys are trying to rig elections. You guys in the last administration let in between 10 to 15 million illegal aliens. I also want to point out that you guys keep referencing the Constitution. I got some Constitution for you. How about Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution? It requires that the federal government protect each state from invasion. That's something clearly you guys did not do while you had the presidency. And now that we have these millions of illegal aliens in this country, we're just simply asking that we put a question on the census, are you an American citizen? And of course you guys don't want to do that, because you know that if we do that and the American people find out exactly how many illegal aliens are in this country and voting, they're going to be as appalled as we see each and every day. And you guys don't want that. And they're not allowed to vote. And you guys try and block every single effort that we make in this House to stop illegal aliens from voting. You guys blocked the SAVE Act as well. That's exactly what this is.
That's all coming out. And we're ready to watch this paper ballots, voter ID required, and more. It's not only the trash that they're bringing in to vote, but these guys actually want, notice his passion when it comes to this, huh? So check this out. An Alabama town rejecting a plan to build a large Muslim school.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the application based on staff comments and what we've heard this evening.
Second. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We are a recommending body. This will go to the council with a recommendation to deny to the council. But the applicant has the right to go to the council and make their application to the council. So I want you to understand, we are a recommending body. The council is the final say-so. Does everybody understand? Thank you, sir. Okay.
The residents fear becoming the next Dearborn, Michigan. Hoover residents showed up en masse and told their officials to vote down the Muslim center. This is how you do it. Thank you, sir, the residents shouted. The proposal now goes to the city council. And again, it just reminds me, for those that might be new to this channel, listening in, a little comment that I make every now and then as a reminder of something that I felt needed to be brought to the forefront. You notice that it says, "In God we trust," in that also in that room. I spent many years going to church 7 days a week, it seemed like. It'd be Sunday, Monday, I'd train Evangelism Explosion. Tuesdays, we'd go visit homes with the Evangelism Explosion folks that I would train. Wednesday, we'd have church. Thursday night, we'd have one men's Bible study. Friday, we'd have some gathering with the church. And then Saturday, we'd have men's morning breakfast. And then Sunday, we had church. So what I'm trying to say is I spent so much time in those buildings because I was comfortable. I liked it. We love sharing the Word of God, and I get it. What we should have done was spent time in the Word of God and then went to the council meetings, went to these meetings like you're seeing here, went to the school meetings to find out what the school's doing with our children. But I spent so much time there that I forgot about being a light in the darkness out there. And they were able to, while we, by the hundreds, were busy, studying the Word of God, but not taking that out. I'm just reminding those that that are going inside the churches to remember to take what you're learning. And many of you write in and say, we are doing.
Folks, and the Democrats let them because they weren't on their game.
So he's saying the Democrats weren't on their game. So, of course, he has to twist it a little bit. Be really careful with these guys that continue to look like they're sounding very conservative, but they're playing both sides. Anyway, the View's not on board. They're looking for anything to go after him. Just in, Democrats' odds to win back the U.S. House in 2026 rises to 79% on Polymarket. Yeah, right. Sure. And of course, the Venezuelan military intelligence whistleblower exposed that the CIA allegedly outsourced its election rigging software and voting machine Smartmatic to multiple countries, including the U.S. from, you ready? Venezuela. This is what multiple sources have been telling you for years. This is nothing new to anyone paying attention. Now it's just verified by an inside source. Do you really believe everything happening in and around Venezuela is just about drug trafficking and countries' resources like oil? Remember, there are layers to everything. If we do not solidify and fix our elections, there's no point in anything we do because we will lose anyway. Now you understand there's more to this than meets the eye from the skiff. My name is Hugo Carzaval Barrios. For many years, I was a high-ranking member of the Venezuelan regime. Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime. I know this because I placed the head of IT of the National Electoral Council in his position, and he reported directly to me. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. This technology was later exported abroad, including the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationships with election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. And then he posts the documents for all to see. Oh, yeah. AAA says the national gas price is just under $3 a gallon, the lowest since May 2021. In Texas, it's $2.55 a gallon.
It's a really important improvement for U.S. customers. What you should know is that this is a victory for affordability and common sense. As the president said, we will be able to offer more affordability on our popular models, and we'll be able to launch new vehicles built in America that are more affordable because of this rule change. Frankly, CAFE was totally out of touch with the market reality. We were forced to sell EVs and other vehicles. We're not going back to gas guzzlers. We have a lot of EVs and a lot of hybrids.
Does the Muslim Brotherhood represent? We're talking about the Muslim side. Who are the bad actors? Who funds majority of U.S. seniors politicians? Why would investment be made in former president pre-political days? Who funded on behalf of this president? Was the former president of the United States groomed to be commander-in-chief? We're talking about Obama. Is this possible? Is the U.S. political election system corrupt? You betcha. Who owns the poll machines? Oh, we just got done talking about a lot of that. Soros, does he own them? Is it part of some network? And remember, Dan Scavino posted that video of a guy when the boss says you can work from anywhere, and he's showing a 14-second video of a guy on his boat in the meeting. Note, the boat on the water. Q14, George Washington, the Durham boat. Why hasn't the Muslim Brotherhood been classified as a terrorist organization? What happens if Soros-funded operations get violent and engage in domestic terrorism? Remember,
the central bank, and who actually votes the leader in for the EU? Oh, it's not the people every single country. They vote themselves in. So really think about this, because this is really what they wanted in the end. This is the template of their new system, where the people actually don't vote their leader in. So you have basically a unelected individual running the EU, because they're not really elected by the people. They were installed into that position. And I do believe what Elon is doing right now, what Trump is doing right now, they're setting the stage to remove the central bank systems worldwide. Remember, almost every single country has a private central bank system in their country, and it all reports to a centralized system, which is the BIZ, which is the IMF, the Fed, you name it. And you can see that this is all going to be dismantled in the end. And this is why Trump had to create the parallel economic system. He needed the engine to compete with the borrowing system. And just like any company, he is now taking the wealth from outside and bringing it into this country, just like any corporation. Actually, that's what the Federal Reserve does, if you really think about it. They're a private corporation. What is their product? Their product is the Federal Reserve note. So they say, listen, here, we just created this product. It's called the Federal Reserve note. We'll let you borrow it. We'll let you use it. But there's going to be interest attached because that's our product. Just like if you go buy a car. You have the automobile manufacturer. They created the car. Do you have to buy it with your money? Absolutely. You're buying their currency. They're actually, I guess you could say, leasing or renting it to you. And you're always making payments on it. Really think about that for a second, because that's exactly what's happening. Trump is about to shut this all down. Happens, I do believe, very close to the midterms. So I do believe in the next couple of months, he's going to designate certain chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organizations. And I do believe this is why he's already beginning all of this, because he's putting everything in place to trap them all. And you can see the deep state players, what do they want? They want to get control of the Supreme Court. They want to basically end the filibuster. Trump, he put this out and said the Democrat #1 policy push is the complete and total obliteration of our great United States Supreme Court. They will do this on their very first day in office through the simple termination of the filibuster. Should they win the upcoming elections, the radical left Democrats are looking at 21 justices with immediate ascension. This would be terrible for our country. Fear not, however, Republicans will not let it or any other catastrophic policy happen. Our country is now in very good hands, MAGA, and we should be ending the filibuster.
As Justice Ketanji Brown, I got to show you, Ketanji Jackson, at the Supreme Court went on an unhinged tirade against President Trump for supposedly acting like a king by hiring loyalists.
Some issues, some matters, some areas should be handled in this way by nonpartisan experts. That Congress is saying that expertise matters with respect to aspects of the economy and transportation and the various independent agencies that we have. So having a president come in and fire all the scientists and the doctors and the economists and the PhDs and replacing them with loyalists and people who don't know anything is actually not in the best interest of the citizens of the United States.
People who don't know anything. Does that sound like a Supreme Court justice? Bringing in people that don't know anything.
Should not be in presidential control. So can you speak to me about the danger of allowing in these various areas the president to actually control the Transportation Board and potentially the Federal Reserve and all these other independent agencies? In these particular areas, we would like to have independence. We don't want the president controlling. I guess what I don't understand from your overarching argument is why that determination of Congress, which makes perfect sense given its duty to protect the people of the United States, why that is subjugated to a concern about the president not being able to control everything. I mean, I appreciate there's a conflict between the two, but one would think under our constitutional design, given the history of the monarchy and the concerns that the framers had about a president controlling everything, that in the clash between those two, Congress's view that we should be able to have independence with respect to certain issues should take precedence.
No wonder they want to stack the court, the Dems, so they could put 21 of these freaks in there. Yeah, it started with the bad one, but let's get into something that happened. A huge win. Really, F Patriot posted this. Kavanaugh and Alito just shut down the independent commission scam. This is the Supreme Court we're talking about. They said Congress cannot just make any cabinet office an independent commission, destroying the presidency as they are not elected by the people and are not accountable to the people.
And agencies are not accountable to the people. They're not elected. As Congress and the president are, and are exercising massive power over individual liberty and billion-dollar industries, whether it's the FCC or the FTC or whatever.
Thoughts on Kavanaugh's words, Jonathan?
Well, both Kavanaugh and Alito really made short work of those defense. They kept on presenting hypotheticals, what they called hard hypotheticals, of where does this take you? Both of them said, well, can you just go ahead and make any cabinet department an independent commission? Can you specify just one commissioner? Can you make their length in office 20 years? All of those questions left the other side floundering. The best that they could say at points was, well, if something like that happens, you could come back and look at it. Well, the justices are looking at it now. And one of the things that should be unnerving is that those justices that normally form an alliance in these cases with the left of the court were not there today. Chief Justice Roberts really stomped on Humphrey's estate and said that it was basically a desiccated or dried up precedent. Justice Barrett said these commissions don't look anything like what existed at the time of some of these earlier cases. So that's not Humphrey's estate that lived in 91.
All right.
All right, let's get to President Trump.
I'm delighted to announce this afternoon that the United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. They took advantage of us like nobody's ever seen. Our deficits are way down because of tariffs. I guess because of the election, because without the election you wouldn't have tariffs. You'd be sitting here losing your shirt. But we're taking in billions. We're really taking in trillions of dollars, if you think about it, Scott, because the real number is, when you think of all the money being poured into the country for new auto plants and all of the other things, AI. So what we're doing is we're taking a relatively small portion of that, and we're going to be giving and providing it to the farmers.
I'm not voting for them. Instead of protecting Americans and their tax dollars, Democrats chose instead to prosecute anyone they can find that wanted safe and secure elections. Democrats have been relentless in their targeting of Tina Peters, a patriot who simply wanted to make sure that our elections were fair and honest. Tina, she's sitting in a Colorado prison for the crime of demanding honest elections. Today, I'm granting Tina a full pardon for her attempts to expose voter fraud in the rigged 2020 presidential election. How about that? That's how you do it. President Trump also said blue slips are making it impossible to get great Republican judges and U.S. attorneys approved to serve in any state where there is even a single Democrat senator. If they say no, then it is over for that very well-qualified Republican candidate. Only a really far-left Democrat run far-left Democrat can be approved. It is shocking that Republicans under Senator Chuck G allowed this scam to continue. So unfair to Republicans and not constitutional. I am hereby asking Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a fantastic guy, to get something done, ideally the termination of blue slips. Too many great Republicans are being sent packing. None are getting approved. President DJT. And so he met with some business leaders and he said this.
The stock market has set a 51, think of this, 51 all-time record highs during the last 10 months. 51. You guys are big beneficiaries. You're setting the records, right? It's amazing. 51 times we've hit a new high. And in the history of our country, if you think about it, 51 times during the last 10 months. And Bruce, let me ask you pull these people all together. How's it looking for technology?
Bill has to go to the Senate right now. And what's very interesting about this, and Robbie Starbuck put this out and said, hey, Representative Mike Lawler, Representative Brian Fitz, Representative Mike Kennedy, and Representative Evans, as Republicans, what the hell possessed you to vote with the 207 Democrats to continue allowing legal sex changes for kids? What the hell are you thinking? Let's explain your barbaric votes to us. Well, now that you saw that, now you know who to primary. So once again, these people, they're not playing a very good game here because they're showing us who they truly are. And once again, you could see that this should have never been allowed in the first place. And it looks like Senator Kennedy, and HHS Rapid Response put this out, said, this morning I signed a declaration sex rejecting procedures are neither safe nor effective treatments for children with gender dysphoria. So basically,
the top shareholders of Reddit. Why is Saudi Arabia relevant? Mainstream media, controlling stakes in NBC and MSNBC, controlling stakes in ABC and CBS and CNN, investors in Fox News. Why is this relevant? Operation Mockingbird active. And I'm wondering if this is just a dog-com to show you that all of the shareholders, guess what? They've probably been taken, and there's probably going to be some actors put in their place, but that's just a wild guess for the dog-coms. President Trump put this out. He actually reposted on Truth Social. The storm has arrived. That's amazing because storm has arrived. Post a lot of stuff from us, the Anons, stating that Rudy Giuliani reacts to the recent news that there were 315,000 votes illegally counted in Fulton County, Georgia during the 2020 election. I really do expect now that the people who attacked me over...
And which time period are you referring to?
This was 2020.
Before or after the election?
During the election.
In your examination of any of these Dominion systems, have you seen any indication of non-election personnel remotely accessing a Dominion system?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
I too have reviewed a series of emails produced by Dominion in which they're discussing remoting into Gwinnett County, Georgia.
You also mentioned Dominion remotely connecting to election systems, but you don't have any evidence that occurred in Georgia, correct?
There was one county. I've seen a lot of Dominion emails. I've had to translate Dominion emails from Serbian to English to verify the technical questions I was being asked about them, to verify that it was translated properly. So
it's your testimony that there
Dominion emails from Serbian to English to verify the technical questions I was being asked about them, to verify that it was translated properly. So
it's your testimony that there is evidence of Dominion remotely accessing Georgia election equipment?
yes, on the one county. It was included with stuff that I was researching and reading through, considering Colorado. Michigan was also involved, and there were other ones.
To your understanding, is Dominion able to remotely connect to these election systems?
Yes.
Are they able to do that without detection?
Yes.
And are you aware of any instances in which that has occurred?
Yes.
Can you identify those instances?
One would be the Denver, Colorado server was granted I requested the grant Belgrade, only Belgrade. I did search. There is a Belgrade, Montana. Again, why would Montana need to connect into a Colorado file transfer server as part of the election system? And there are other components and things that were done in the background concerning the database and the configure of the database server that still do not have an engineering change order. Because if somebody works in an operational environments for a lot of different things, what I will tell you is sometimes things break or you have a problem and you have to fix it. And you submit a change request, or in this case, an engineering change order that's retroactive, right? You want to go back and make sure that you record the process so that you have change management and integrity of the system. If you do not record changes, you lead yourself down a very bad road.
That was posted on Christmas. President Trump also said, thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua. Total crooks to Joshua Hall, posting that on Truth Social. Just a tirade of information, things coming out against the deep state. Breaking, the Georgia Board of Elections dropped this bombshell revealing that hundreds of thousands of ballots in Georgia in the 2020 presidential election were counted twice, and it was not by human error, but by intentional human intervention, which was in fact massive voter fraud that stole the election from the actual winner of Georgia, President Donald J. Trump. Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, President Trump, and countless others were criminally charged, civilly sued, and in some cases bankrupted for no other crime than having the courage to come forward and expose this massive fraud to the American people. They have now been completely and totally vindicated. The head of the Georgia Board of Elections now says Georgia owes President Donald J. Trump an apology. It's official, guys, and the evidence is all out. After 5 long, painful years, the 2020 election was stolen from all of us, and President Trump was the lawful winner of the state of Georgia. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Governor Brian Kemp, and other top Georgia election officials were paid off to look the other way and knowingly certify this fraudulent election. So when do the arrests start? Ruby Freeman should have to pay Rudy back reparations and every single penny that she got off of him based on a big lie and a false pretense. And her, Raffensperger, Kemp, and every single one of their fellow election riggers must be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This was the political crime of the century, and they should never be allowed to show their faces in the public again without being shouted down by we the people for stealing our vote and our president from us. Resign now, you rhino traitors. When President Trump was talking about the enemy from within, he was talking about people like them. It's amazing. You know, also amazing is our shirts that are available, folks, and our gear at amweknow.com or shop.amweknow.com. We have so many great products for you. You can sign up for our newsletter and more on amweknow.com. And also our cruise is still available on that website. If you're wearing our gear, you'll be able to walk around. Folks will stop you and say, hi, I happen to watch that channel also. And you'll have new friends out there. Basically, follow me, and you'll have that shirt, follow me. We'll make you fishers of men. Absolutely amazing gear, folks. Here's more great pictures of patriots wearing our gear. While we're recording this, actually posted something else for us to look at. You know, Democrats still in another election.
I just thought it was strange that only Biden's name was selected, no down ballot. And I watched multiples. I don't know how many I watched, and not one of them was for Trump. I thought that was really strange, especially being military. You must know in your heart that this election was fraudulent. There's no question of it if you really are sensible.
Can you imagine going through all the ballots and it's just Biden, but nobody at all votes for Trump, and the ballots are, remember we saw a lot of them that were not even folded. They were perfectly, fine, as if they were just printed off a machine and delivered. And then you wonder how folks like this get into office. Oh, Somali immigrants. Or they get into the school board in Portland. Did they get there because folks wanted them there, or did they figure out how to get in there by manipulation. Who knows? But look at this as they're told, let's get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. For those listening, they stand
We're
up.
going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
They stand up, and the Somali girls don't put their hands over their heart. Yeah. They refuse to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's bad enough they're here, let alone they're holding elected office. That's why we have Ilhan Omar probably placed there. You have all these other Democrats who probably never really won, but they were placed there. And then these freaks like this Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, he's saying some pretty bad things.
Increasingly concerned because of the chaos that is being caused by these ICE agents that somebody is gonna get seriously injured or killed.
Seriously injured or killed? Huh.
Somebody is gonna get seriously injured or killed. And whether that is an ICE agent or a community member, we all know the tinderbox that could explode because of it. We all know that the federal government is looking for reasons to deploy more and more people to Minneapolis and blue cities around the country.
They don't have to look very far. You can just go on social media and see that people want to cause problems in America, in that area. Really? Who wants to do the killing? He's basically saying that ICE is going to do it. Oh, really? Well, Libs of TikTok showed us Yossi Ben Yaker. There's a Muslim prayer in Dearborn, Michigan. I'm sure this is happening in a lot of places throughout America.
Know that we're going to vote blue no matter who. And all y'all got to do is use the race card. All y'all got to do is call white supremacy, the white man. But we're in a heavily Democratic city from top to bottom. State and city, all Democrats. So can we say that the Democrats are racist white men or white women? Who is it? Because this is what y'all telling us. So I'm letting you all know, Chicago flips red. We are not paying these taxes. We are calling for a boycott on these taxes. Nobody is playing this game no more. We won't pay our taxes until we get a forensic audit on where all our money is going. We're demanding that. We're asking President Trump to send the feds here.
30 seconds.
The DOJ here. We need a forensic audit on where our money is going. And we are not paying no property tax. And we are calling for a boycott. And we're going around to every ward in the city and calling for it. You all going to learn to stop playing with us. And you all going to learn that you all work for us. And none of these seats secure. And we coming for those seats. And you could sit there like you sitting there, like you unbothered, all of you all. Yeah, but you getting up out of
Next
those
speaker is...
And that's at the Cook County Board meeting. And she's wearing a Chicago Flips red sweatshirt and a red hat. And I saw this that came in a while ago. A former Chicago hospital CFO has been found guilty of running a $293 million fake COVID testing scheme. Alan Alneely and his team set up over 20 pop-up sites, falsified test results, misappropriated federal funds, and used the money to buy luxury cars and real estate, all while patients received fraudulent tests during a public health crisis. Chicago's not the only place that's in trouble.
California Congressman Kevin Kiley, he is sounding the alarm in his home state, saying under Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, it has become the, quote, fraud capital of America.
And we have team coverage. Our national correspondent, Alana Austin, is on Capitol Hill with more on the investigations into Tim Walz. But we start with correspondent Heather Myers, who has more on what is going on in California. A rainy day out there on the West Coast. Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon to you, Katrina and Andrew. This latest report was issued by the state auditor, and that's a nonpartisan position. That state auditor now puts 8 state agencies on a high-risk list of agencies to watch out for things like fraud and mismanagement as well as waste. Here's a look at that 92-page report. Newly added to the high-risk list is California's food stamp program. If the state doesn't get the improper payments under control, it could cost an extra $2.5 billion. Also on there is the Department of...
To cheat in the midterms to cheat in the elections that they're going to be running in. And actually, we're still waiting for the Supreme Court ruling, and maybe we will get rid of the filibuster. But again, you could see Trump is putting all this in place. And actually, when you start to expose all these things, people then sign on to, you know something, if they're doing this with the health care, with buying homes, leaving them empty, making believe that they're home health care centers, it's not that far of a stretch to say that these people have been cheating in the election to keep all this operational. So in the end, how do you get rid of all these people? You got to vote them out. And I do believe in the end, this is definitely going to be done. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that Trump, he's attacking the fake news quite hard right now. And I do believe in the end, he's doing this because in the end, the fake news was completely on board with the deep state players, the criminal syndicate that push Russia collusion, that pushed the Epstein hoax, that pushed the impeachments, that pushed the indictments when he was running for election, that pushed the assassination attempt. They're covering for the deep state players. They're involved in all of this. And this is why Trump is continually pushing this out there because, again, the fake news is going to go down with the rest of them. He put this out and said, if fake network newscasts and their late night shows are almost 100% negative to DJT, MAGA, and the Republican Party, shouldn't their very valuable broadcast licenses be terminated? I say yes. He's building the narrative. Isn't that interesting? Wouldn't that be funny if a lot of these fake news organizations, if their broadcast license were removed during the election, and this way they couldn't push the fake stories? That would be very, very interesting. They wouldn't be able to shape the narrative. And think about what John Brennan did. Brennan? And they need the security clearance? That is very interesting. Without the security clearance, again, they're blind. And you can see the deep state players are trying to stop them every single way, which means they're panicking over all of this. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that we know the midterm elections are coming up, and we know the deep state players, they love to cheat. And Jamie Raskin is once again pushing a sweeping overhaul of America's voting system. And what does he want? He wants ranked choice voting. And he posted on X saying, yeah, here's my new, law, HR 6589. And under this system, voters rank candidates in order of preference. If no candidate receives a majority of first choice votes, the lowest vote getter is eliminated and ballots are redistributed to remaining candidates until someone crosses the 50% threshold. So think about that. Think about how this is all played out. So the study in Maine elections found that 98% of ranked choice elections, 60% of the victors did not win by majority of the total vote cast. RCV opened doors to fraud and manipulation. The multi-round tabulations delays create gaps ripe for accusations of tampering, while exhausted ballots means winners often lack true majority support. So basically, this creates cheating, it creates fraud, and it doesn't work in anyone's interest except the cheaters. So in 2025 alone, Idaho, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, South Carolina prohibited ranked choice voting, joining 11 other states for a total of 17 bans. It is a scam, and Americans should really push back on this. And this is why we have to go back to one-day voting, paper ballots, voter ID, no mail-ins, no machines. That's how you solve all of this. And once again, I do believe in the end we will get this. So why did Jamie Raskin come out with this? Because they're panicking because the rigged election evidence is now coming out. And Trump, he put this out on Truth. He's referring to Joshua Hall. And Joshua Hall put this out and said, the Georgia Board of Elections just dropped this bombshell, revealing that hundreds of thousands of ballots in Georgia in the 2020 presidential election were counted twice, as it was not by human error, but by intentional human intervention, which was in fact massive voter fraud that stole the election from the actual winner of Georgia, President Donald J. Trump. Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, President Trump, and countless others were criminally charged, civilly sued, and in some cases bankrupted for no other crime than having the courage to come forward and expose this massive fraud to the American people. They have now been completely and totally vindicated. The head of the Georgia Board of Elections now says Georgia owes President Donald J. Trump an apology. It's official, guys, and the evidence is all out after 5 long, painful years. The 2020 election was stolen from all of us, and Trump was the lawful winner of the state of Georgia. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Governor Brian Kemp, and other top Georgia election officials were paid off to look the other way and knowingly certify this fraudulent election. So when do the arrests start? Ruby Freeman should have to pay Ruby back reparations and every single penny that she got off of him based on a big lie and false pretense. And her Raffensperger, Kemp, and every single one of their fellow election riggers must be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This was the political crime of the century, and they should never be allowed to show their faces in the public again without being shouted down by we the people for stealing our vote and our president from us.
Reminded us of this, the footage of poll workers in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, filling out ballots during the 2020 stolen election. It's not legal in any way, shape, or form.
I'm going to send it to Bill.
This lady is marking the ballots. I filmed her a half hour ago doing 6, and she's still working at it. Let's stamp it, received, and let's fill in our 6 blanks. All at the top of the tickets on each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's a security guard right there who's watching her. The cops are in on it. Disgusting.
How many folks were in on it? Will we ever see justice play out? Laura Logan reminded us of this video that's been playing out of, you guys remember old Ruby? Remember this one?
A poll worker named Ruby Freeman,
out of Atlanta,
running the same stack of ballots through the counting machines multiple times. Ironically, Ruby Freeman was later given the Presidential Citizens Medal by Joe Biden for her work during the 2020 election.
Yes. A Medal of Freedom for cheating and doing a great job and basically letting her know, we got you covered. Don't worry, we're going to pardon you, right? Probably. But the pardons aren't going to work out anymore, are they? She was probably on the pardon list. We'll see. Oh, man. What else? The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I mean, we're only hitting a few. Folks today. During the most secure election month in American history, mail-in ballots were sent out, 1,823,000. Mail-in ballots final count, 2,589,000. What happened to the 766,000?
Mail-in ballots counted without being observed. Those are the ballots we were talking about that were not observed in Allegheny County and in Philadelphia.
Correct.
Is that right? 682,770. Now, this is the part that is a mystery. Mailed ballots sent out, 1,823,148. But when you go to the count of the final count of the vote, there are 2,589,242 mail-in ballots. What happened? How do you account for the 700,000 mail-in ballots that appeared from nowhere?
So our cyber team uses white hat hacking techniques. They gather a lot of publicly available information, and that information was from the Secretary of State's website. That website has been updated as late as 11/16 this morning with provisional and mail-in ballots. So those numbers are still changing. They changed last night, so it's a continual target.
This is 22 days after the election.
That number, the 2.5 million number is no longer on the website.
Just been taken off?
It's not there anymore.
Is there any explanation for why it's been taken off?
There was no annotation.
No annotation. Really, of course, was at it, working hard. You know, all of this playing out and more. I mean, we've got comms coming up again, dog comms. Here's Dan Scavino posting more of those dog comms. And everybody's wondering, you know, we talked about the dog comms in a recent video. If you missed it, go watch our last video, and we explain. This has a lot to do with people that might be arrested soon or taken down that we're never going to see. Or we hope to see someday. But I tell you what, there's some big names that we hope are going to be going down soon. And one of those would be these folks from J6, because the time is almost up. The Golden Age Times put this out to us. Attorney General Pam Bondi has 10 days left to file charges against the J6 criminals pardoned by Biden, voted by Trump. Per Newsmax host, Pam Bondi has less than 10 days to indict most of the January 6 people whose pardons have been tossed. In 10 days, the statute since her confirmation in early 2025, she hasn't at all mentioned taking action against the J6 Unselect Committee for their criminal and downright treasonous actions. Bondi has a mere 10 days to take action before the 5-year statute of limitations expires, which means those crooked politicians who incited this event and were participated in the J6 witch hunt trials will get away with everything. Her not taking action between today and 10 days from now will be the ultimate litmus test of what all 78 million of us can expect from her for the next 3 years. That is, unless President Trump fires her in the new year. He's already expressed frustration towards her at least 3 times recently on Truth Social. We're going to read one of those now. Donald Trump says this, the president, Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially, quote, same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. It's being done. What about Comey, Adam, Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past. A woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Democrat senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him, and there's great case, and many layers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President DJT, with all the work that he's doing. We've been seeing up. I thought that was really strange, especially being military.
They read, received November 4th, enter as November 2nd. These 3 ladies were entering these ballots in to the verified voter system.
Yeah. There you go.
4 of these notes.
What else do we have here? I mean, President Trump is going after it hard. And while that's going on, Tom Homan's having to defend, again, what's happening with these children because the media wants to complain about all of it.
You know, I always hear all the time, family separation, Homan's the godfather, family separation. Let me be clear. Zero tolerance is about saving lives. Because we figure we start prosecuting people who violate the law and put the children in harm's way, maybe they stop coming. And they did. Numbers went down. It's unfortunate families got separated. But it happens to American families every day. It's going to happen in Albany today that American family will be separated by law enforcement because the child can't go to jail with the parent.
Buildings there. They don't know what they're doing. They're way over budget. I mean, almost, this was built during the Biden administration, and I rode by it the other day, and it's headed by the head of the Federal Reserve. Too late, too late, Powell. Too late because he's always too late with interest rates, except before the election. He was too early because that would have helped. That was supposed to help get her elected. It had no impact. We won all 7 swing states. But no. We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence.
How about that? We'll add over $4 billion in cost and make the project the world's most expensive per square foot by that building. He continues to bring that up with the Federal Reserve. It's almost like they're going to be taken down. Remember, we were told gold shall destroy the Fed. Maybe the Fed will be completely shut down. That would be wonderful if they pull that off. What could these surprises be? And then clandestine, it's not just the Somalis in Minnesota. The Dems opened up our nation to anyone who would come here and vote for them in exchange for our tax dollars. They use shell companies to funnel public money to the immigrants, meaning we are slaves that fund the people replacing us. This is why the Dems so desperately don't want voter ID, because they are wittingly engaged in a scheme to let illegals vote, which allows them to stay in power, which allows them to continue to steal our tax dollars. It's all one giant racket, and we, the people, are the suckers. There's that screen, no photo ID. They always win, the Democrats, when they have no photo ID. And then you have this from clandestine for all the morons squealing about when the arrests are coming. I've been telling you for years, the arrest of high-profile individuals will cause massive
protective custody and later released to Tennessee DCS. Now, investigators also say that the children were smuggled across the border, transported through Arizona, and eventually brought here to Smithville. And that report says that the smugglers, quote, are believed to be a part of the Mexican drug cartel, end quote.
Oh, so President Trump's right again. The cartels. Bad guys coming across the border, trafficking children. Last week, nearly every Democrat voted against a bill to add protections for migrant children, including vetting sponsors. That's your Democrats for you. Look at this.
So if I were to look at the Democrat Party, all I see is death. All I see is the ends justify the means. We don't care if we are morally bankrupt as long as we reach our goals. That is what I see. It's just death. You want to kill babies. You want to sterilize kids. You want to let illegals into the border knowing that you're also bringing in human trafficking, drugs, more crime. The left is going to drive this country into the ground deliberately. These people are communists. They don't care about your freedom. They care about themselves.
That's all they care about. As a matter of fact, you know, when we speak of Democrats, we can't help but bring up old Tim Walz, tried to become the vice president to cover up all of his crimes. New videos going viral. Resurfaced Tim Walz in 2022, praising his Somali brothers and sisters.
We know there is no separating Minnesota of who we are from our Somali brothers and sisters. It is such a part of it is part of who we are. It's such a good part of who we are in every aspect of our life. And the opportunity that we have in Minnesota, as we said, to make sure there is no reason that every single person in Minnesota has to go to bed hungry at night. We have the ability to feed everyone, to make sure every child goes to school. There's no reason to have lunch tickets and lunch counters and lunch money and that. We have the ability to provide universal meals for breakfast and lunch to every single Minnesotan. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to house every Minnesotan with investments to make sure that they're culturally appropriate ways that we can make sure we lend and have the ability to build housing to transfer wealth down through generationally. And there's absolutely no reason that anyone in Minnesota, especially our children, shouldn't have the option for affordable quality health care. We have the best providers in the world, and we have the capacity to do that. I want to thank our friends in the legislature. I know Steve Elkins is here and others. We have a budget that reflects those values. We have a budget that reflects the care that you see in this room and the sense of community. So
we have a budget. What budget? Oh, the ones where, you know, go to work, you get taxed, you fill up your gas tank taxed, you buy food taxed, you buy products at the store taxed. Everywhere you go, taxed. Americans in East Palestine, Ohio, remember the train wreckage there? No money for Americans in Western North Carolina, remember all the damage there. But FEMA had an extra $1 billion to spend on illegals, including Social Security, Medicaid, and voter registration. You know, stuff that we don't think about all that often, but people out there that say, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to know the truth of what's really going on. I just want to be to myself. You know, I want to keep paying taxes and working super hard. And I want to watch our country just fall apart. I want to live in this country. As long as I don't know anything that's going on, just leave me out of it. Breaks your heart, doesn't it? Austin Allred said, can you wrap your mind around how crazy it is to see $9 billion of Medicaid fraud in one state? Imagine $1 million house. There's enough Medicaid fraud in Minnesota to buy 9,000 of them. That's
$1,000 fine to one of the women, Paula Jones, who's also here tonight. And I will tell you that when Hillary brings up a point like that, and she talks about words that I said 11 years ago, I think it's disgraceful, and I think she should be ashamed of herself, if you want to know the truth.
We'll never forget that. You guys remember? Remember how he baited the media? He says, I've got something to share, and they run in there, and all of a sudden, those ladies are standing there, and they're reminding everybody who they are, their past, what happened to them with Clinton himself and what he did to them. Where would we be, folks? Another reminder, where would we be if Hillary would have got in? How much would have been covered up? How much would they have destroyed our country? She worships Satan. Many of the politicians that they associate with worship Satan. That's where they get their power from. And God Almighty has power over them. Remember this as deaths and resignations pile up over the next...
Arguing the Interior Department failed to provide a, quote, reasoned explanation for the sudden stop. But the administration gained momentum. This was just last week. A federal judge over in Baltimore denied a request by U.S. Wind to stop the government from reevaluating permits for a project off the coast of Maryland. That ruling gave Interior Secretary Doug Burgum the opening he needed. He was on Fox this morning saying these reviews are a, quote, ongoing internal process, not a final decision, allowing the department to pull back the reins while they investigate the true cost to taxpayers.
Amazing. Got some more on that with this interview. Let me show you this right here.
Today, we're sending notifications to the 5 large offshore wind projects that are under construction that they're going to be, their leases will be suspended due to national security concerns. During this time of suspension, we'll work with the companies to try to find a mitigation. But we've completed the work that President Trump has asked us to do. The Department of War has come back conclusively that the issues related to these large offshore wind programs.
Most people don't know this, but the best way to clear mucus, phlegm, and tar from the lungs isn't with cough suppressants.
Programs create radar interference that creates a genuine risk for the U.S., particularly related to the where they are in proximity to our East Coast population centers.
My hope is that all of these are taken down across the entire earth. Yes, our country, but the entire earth. Tear them down. Figure out how to get rid of them. They're an eyesore, and they're ruining this earth. Is so dumb that they even have those things up. Chevron is pulling out of California after 146 years, headquartered there since 1879, folks.
It was in the Wall Street Journal when Mike Wirth, the CEO of Chevron, was getting ready to move Chevron out of California, texted him and said, we're about to make this announcement. I'd like to tell you before you read about it. Gavin Newsom replied, essentially, quote, I don't need to talk about it. I'm good.
Did you hear that? I'm good. 145 years, $300 billion company, tens of thousands of jobs, and the governor says, I'm good. Now, gas is at $7 in parts of LA, $6.79 right here, and it's about to hit about $10. So I started digging into what the hell is going on. And what I found out made me sick. 3 refineries are gone. Let me show you what just happened.
Refineries in California are winding down their operations. Phillips 66 in Los Angeles County is set to shut down completely in a few weeks, and Valero in the Bay Area will stop operations in April.
20%. That's not a small adjustment. That's a massacre, and it gets worse. Valero was offered $200 million to stay. Listen to what they said.
Valero in Northern California flat out said, we're out of the state. And they were very upfront about it. They said, we're tired of operating this hostile environment. We're tired of operating under these punitive rules. And by the way, our operating costs across California refineries are on average 35 to 38% higher than anywhere else in the country.
Did you catch that? Hostile environment. punitive rules. A billion-dollar company would rather lose $1 billion than deal with Sacramento for one more year.
Oh boy. Let's look more into old Gavin Newsom.
California is bleeding to death. Gavin Newsom is bragging about being the fourth largest economy, but he is presiding over a mass exodus. 1.2 million Californians have fled the state, and they aren't coming back. This isn't just a few retirees. 70% of the wealth leaving belongs to people earning over $200,000. The tax base is evaporating. While Newsom plays CEO of a failing company, 352 businesses, including 11 Fortune 1000 giants, have packed up for Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. Why? Because you can pay $2,000 rent in Houston for what costs $5,000 in LA. It is simple math, and the Democrats are failing the test. They refuse to even study tax cuts while raising your taxes to cover a $70 billion deficit. They are betting you are too scared to leave, trapping you with regulations while the rich like Musk and Rogan escape. California is ranked 50th for business, and the board of directors, Newsom and his cronies, should have been fired years ago.
Here we go. Not only that, they've been working behind the scenes to destroy our health. RFK Jr.'s had enough. He continues to work hard.
The Trump administration will not stand by while ideology, misinformation, and propaganda push vulnerable young people into decisions they cannot fully understand and that they can never reverse. On my watch, HHS will stand for radical transparency and informed consent. We follow the evidence. We employ gold standard science. We honor the moral obligation to do no harm. There is divine worth in every person, and it shines most brightly in our children. That worth commands us to protect them. And as long as I serve as HHS Secretary, this agency will do so. President Trump has made child protection a national priority. The Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy demonstrates that commitment. Sex-rejecting procedures rob children of their futures. So today we are taking 6 decisive actions, guided by gold standard science, and the week 1 executive order from President Trump to protect children from chemical and surgical mutilation. This morning, I signed a declaration. Sex-rejecting procedures are neither safe nor effective treatment for children with gender dysphoria. Medical professionals or entities providing sex-rejecting procedures to children are out of compliance with these standards of healthcare. This declaration is a clear directive to providers to follow the science and the overwhelming body of evidence that these procedures hurt, not help children.
Yeah, with these children, some of them are speaking up. University of Oklahoma announced that it has ruled in favor of the student who was discriminated against for quoting the Bible in an assignment to justify traditional gender roles. The transgender instructor will also...
Without having to spend any time worrying about the politics of this, I'm going to fight it, making sure that Minnesotans are cared for. I'm going to fight it by doing the respect that we should have for rule of law. So I just think all of you see this. It is just going to be relentless. Why 2,000 folks? What are they coming? Do they want to coordinate with us? You saw a U.S. attorney stand up, which was would have been let go by any other administration, speculating about things with no factual information. That's defamation. That's coming from the attorney. We are under assault like no other time in our state's history because of a petty, vile administration that doesn't care about the well-being of Minnesotans. My job is to protect the well-being of Minnesotans. So the good news on this is Republicans are sure they're going to lose the governor's race dramatically. That's fine by me. I don't care who sits in this seat as long as it's not one of them who hurt Minnesotans. I care that it's somebody who understands and respects this office.
Oh, the liar will continue to move forward. Let's hear from Tim just a little bit more.
And we'll make sure that in this state, there's full accountability for everybody, because buck stops with me. I'm accountable for this.
Oh, you are.
And because of that accountability, I'm not running for office again. But I have a year.
Because of that accountability, I'm not running for office. Because I'm a liar, because I've cheated everyone out of billions of dollars, I'm not going to run for office again, but I'm going to hold people accountable because, that's who I am.
Continue to improve on a record that I think will stand up against anybody's, a record that has made Minnesota better, a record that makes people want to come here, and a record that has respected not only the dignity of people, but the idea of rule of law and camaraderie. So the one thing that I hate is anytime I get drug into being next to Donald Trump, God help me, I don't want to be judged against that guy. Judge me.
You ought to insist on it. Can you imagine? In California, they not only don't have voter ID, but if an official at the voting booths, which they don't have, by the way, because it's all mail, if an official, a voting official, even asks somebody for voter ID, sir, would like to see your identification. Do you come from our country? They put him in jail for tampering with the election. Okay? We got to straighten this out before it gets too crazy. California is more corrupt than any place. California is more corrupt than Minnesota. And I won Minnesota. Well, Tom's going, I think so. Well, it's close. It can't be proportionately. Probably nothing's more corrupt, right? Yeah, right. He says you got to win. I'll tell you what, I did great there 3 times. I was surprised 3 times. Those elections are corrupt. They got you one time too, but I heard a long time ago, but they got you. But they got to straighten those out. But we have to have voter ID. And when you confront a Democrat about voter ID, like in a debate or something, I said it a couple of times with Biden, and they're very embarrassed when they say, we want voter ID, voter identification. The only reason somebody doesn't want that is because they want to cheat. Our elections are crooked as hell. And you can not only win elections over that, and not only win future elections, but you'll win every debate because the public is really angry about it. And you ought to pass the SAFE Act, or whatever you're going to call it. Are we going to SAVE Act or the Save America Act? I think we're going to change the name a little bit. You're going to put that up for a vote?
Save America Act. Well, part of that would be going into California like he's talking about and getting this voter ID stuff taken care of. But in the meantime, Kristi Noem sent a message to Gavin Newsom.
The governor of California says, bring it on.
Oh, we'll be there. We think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. So Minnesota is unbelievable what we've seen, but it is leading us to networks all over the country and overseas, and we're going to follow every single one of them. Homeland Security Investigations is an incredible team of individuals who go after human traffickers, sex traffickers, but the fraud that we have in our public programs that are tied to California, absolutely. We're going to come to you, Governor Newsom, and we're going to arrest every single individual that has ties to this kind of stealing of taxpayer dollars, and we will hold them accountable.
Oh, boy. California. What other states seem to be on the docket?
It is Mississippi's largest ever public embezzlement.
21, when this was all coming to a head. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding.
And this fraud is much bigger than this because as I look, it's like 6 different federal agencies. Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, Small Business Association, Housing Urban Development, Department of Labor, Department of Agriculture. In this program and a bunch of others, they were shaking down the entire federal government, it looked like. 6 different federal agencies. I think you pointed out, over the last 15 years?
That's correct.
And not only are the Democrat administration overlooking it, they're helping it along. They're assisting it. They're going after whistleblowers, as your colleague pointed out, and they're benefiting from all this politically with contribution to their campaign. Not to mention the voting issue that you referenced earlier as well. Is that all accurate?
I believe so.
Oh, now there's more than 6 agencies involved. There's 6 federal agencies that got shaken down, but there's 2 other agencies involved now, the FBI and the DOJ. Right? How many people have been indicted now?
I do not have that number in front of me, but it's significant.
And I don't know how long y'all been in the legislature. We appreciate your work, appreciate what you do. But have you ever seen anything like this in your time in the I've never seen anything like this in an agency. Miss Robbins, you're
Oh, the exposure. We've seen these before, and many of you probably watch and say, yep, there they are. They're just spitting out facts left and right, but are we seeing anything happening? Are there any big arrests? There's been arrests. They're not being exposed to the degree that we would like it to be, but we want those at the very top to get exposed. Speaking of getting exposed, before I get to more on this, just found out the U.S. House voted to advance Democrats' bill to give billions to big, rich health insurance through Obamacare. The vote was 221 to 205, folks. Guess what? 9 Republicans joined the Democrats to make it happen. So if you reverse that, and those 9 Republicans would have jumped on board, it would have been 214 against, right? And if I did my math right, it'd be 212-4, and it wouldn't have gone through. Let's get the names of the Republicans out for you guys in case you wondered. Brian Fitzpatrick, Pennsylvania. Rob Bresnahan, Pennsylvania. Did I say that right? Oh, Bresnahan. Tom Keene, New Jersey. Nick Lolata, New York. Mike Lawler, New York. Ryan McKenzie, Pennsylvania. Max Miller, Ohio. Maria Elvira Salazar, Florida. And David Valadao, California. Catch that? So let's move forward with some more of this.
Do you have any doubt that Governor Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
He absolutely knew that it was occurring.
Thank you. The Housing Stability Services Program was estimated to cost about $2.6 million per year. But before it was shut down last October, it was on track to run about $122 million in 2025. In fact, I think they sucked $161 million out of it from the point it started in 2020 until it was finally shut down. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. And Joe Thompson believes that 90% of that was fraud.
Yeah. The Quality Leering Center, as uncovered by Nick Shirley, received almost $10 million in funding. Is that accurate?
I believe it is.
There are more than 80 autism centers in Minnesota under investigation. Is that true?
I believe it is, yes.
It's clear that someone is criminally complicit. You can't just let this amount of money get out of your administration over a period of 7 years without knowing. There was a hearing in the state regarding the fraudulent housing stabilization program, but before that hearing, Governor Walz fired the official who was slated to testify so that they could not testify and expose what was happening under Governor Walz's watch. Knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
Walz and Ellison were...
No doubt. Because old Governor Tim Walz's administration terminated the whistleblower, Eric Rumdel, one day before his scheduled testimony on fraud in the Housing Stabilization Services Program. You wonder where the violence is coming from? Here's a flashback. Remember Minnesota's leading Democrat candidate for U.S. Senate urged activists to put your body on the line.
Our neighbors are being disappeared. P.S. Without due process, it is just called kidnapping. Then show up and use your voice. Put your body on the line. Our neighbors are being...
Put your body on the line. That's right. They're out there getting folks killed with their rhetoric. It's time that they were held accountable. We're going to show you Anna Paluna, what she did, and basically also putting out information about Ilhan Omar in a moment. Very, very strong information on that. First, speaking of strength, let's talk about that strong coffee. Old Mike at Hunter's Blend.
Have you ever made the mistake of buying a big bag of blonde roast beans, but once you brewed it up, you realize it was a terrible mistake? Well, today, we're going to show you how you can blacken up that big bag of blonde roast beans. First, find yourself a nice big hay bale. Then, dump out all your beans. Then, give it a good soaking with gas. Then, pour yourself a cup of Hunter's Blend coffee, light a flare, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Oh man, folks, we don't advise that you do this without
I don't know, but the javelinas are coming through. They need to find a new place to rest because too much water out there maybe. Maybe there was a little guy. Where he's across. Okay, oopsie.
Hopefully all the garbage on that side that you got to.
Fridays. Oh no! Look at those guys. Where more? Look at them. They're having, you know what? Are they seriously? Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Are you kidding me right now? Oh my, I haven't seen that yet. Okay.
Serve it underhand across the net. Swing and a hit, don't you fret. Pickleball vibes on a summer's day. Laughing and shouting, there's no better way.
The votes. Clandestine put this out and said, guys, something's happening. All of the pro-Islam Democrats are all of a sudden in unison posting pro-Judaism and anti-Hamas posts. And after their followers have been screaming free Palestine all day, every day for years, are they getting in front of something? Is something about to happen? Maybe. So it might be that they're doing this to position themselves for the midterms. Because if they're against the Jewish community and only for the Islam community, this is going to be very, very difficult for them because they know they have to get certain votes in certain areas. And a lot of the cities are made up of Jewish communities. So they might be playing this up for the midterms. And you know what happens after the elections? They just basically go back to what they were doing. So it's fake. Or they're going to try to get ahead of something that might occur. Maybe there's a false flag. Maybe something happens. We don't know. I won 78 out of 87 counties. The election was swung by corrupt counties around Minneapolis and St. Paul, represented by disgusting Ilhan Omar. Moronic Tim Walz has allowed Minnesota to become overrun by Somali fraudsters who steal from American taxpayers and take advantage of our generosity. Tim is completely incompetent, which is why he lost big time last year, and bowing out of re-election is the only good decision he has ever made. I have instructed Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, to follow the money and put an end to this abuse once and for all, first in Minnesota and then all around the country.
I want to echo your statements because as I spend time here, it is good to be back in Minnesota, Minneapolis. I am hopeful too.
Be done this way was the reply. Also, 952, you'll see Proverbs 13:9, the light of the righteous shines brightly, but the lamp of the wicked is extinguished. In that 25-second video, if you go to 25 on the board, says this all has meaning, everything stated, big picture stuff. Few positions allow for this direct knowledge. Proof to begin 11.3. Is that yesterday? Is that the day before yesterday? We all sincerely appreciate the work you do. Keep up the good fight. The flow of information is vital. God bless. Very interesting, huh? Got a couple others that are pretty good. August the 17th. Look at this, Anons. General, remember, gave us the numbers, Raisin Cane. Gave us the numbers. Election fraud will be revealed. So if you look at the numbers, he talked about 1:01 a.m., the start, and the end at 3:29 a.m. Folks, when they give this information out, pay attention, because a lot of this is really coming together as if it's a production to wake everyone up. In that post on 1:01 and 3:29, we're given the following information. Election fraud will be revealed. Time to show the world. Okay? Maduro, folks, what went on with the Dominion voting systems in Venezuela? U.S. military went in and they got them. Now. So we're told here, Q&A, 5 minutes. You look at this, it says, will election fraud be revealed soon? Yes, midterms are safe. Midterms are coming up. We got Runbeck and Dominion on there. Serbia, Venezuela, UK, controlling all of the elections through Dominion and Runbeck. That's right. Time to show the world. And I tell you what, be an amazing midterms when we see the Democrats finally falling apart. I'm not going to be able to go much further. Remember that red folder Well, the red folder is moving. The moment has arrived when the red folder opens. The final sequence begins. No reversal, no return. Prepare. I think this is from Whiplash, where I got it from. December 12th is a trigger point, not a date, a signal. EAS and EBS, these emergency systems, are already under military control. Project Odin and Starlink are in position. The civil grid is a shell. The real network is armed. 10 nations are locked into the global broadcast frame. When the switch flips, all screens merge into one feed. The transmission will expose everything: government corruption, banking fraud, military crimes. No filter, no delay. The red folder is not a threat. It is the countdown. Stay alert. The next signal won't wait. Now, I saw this here. Maduro went in there and pled not guilty, right, to all the crimes that they have on him. But, of course, in court. He's excited, and that's good. He's going to be with us on the cruise, by the way, if you guys want to meet him. Nevada is also corrupt. Jesse Benally's testimony at this U.S. Senate hearing in 2020 was completely ignored in Nevada, just like every other swing state. They knowingly certified a fraudulent election in each of these states. January 6, 2021 was the cover-up for the real insurrection on November 3rd, 2020. President Trump made sure that got out to the public. He also, President Trump, wanted this video out.
To vote? Well, it depends upon what state you're in, if it's a photo ID or not, if you have an affidavit. Maria, for years, I've covered and investigated voter and election fraud cases here at Fox News, and you won't believe what we found. Take a look at this. These are absentee ballots that were faked. Prosecutors in Troy, New York said politicians simply stole elections by handing in fraudulent ballots that they filled out as real votes. The unsuspecting voters we talked to said they did not even know their votes were robbed. So you didn't write that?
I did not.
You didn't cast a ballot?
I did not.
Did you vote?
No.
Did you fill out an absentee ballot?
Nope.
Did you fill out an absentee ballot application?
Nope, I didn't fill out any of those.
So your vote was a fraud?
It was.
In Kentucky, prosecutors said 20 public officials stole elections by buying votes, spending $400,000 to buy 8,000 votes over several elections. You sold your vote? Mm-hmm. How much did you sell your vote for?
$25.
Well, in Cincinnati, veteran poll worker Mallory Richardson was charged with voting in the 2008 and 2012 presidential election, not once, but 2 and 3 times. She pled no contest to 4 counts, including voting for her sister, who had been in a coma for a decade. In Pennsylvania, 7 election officials have been hit with election fraud charges, deaths in machines, and adding phony votes.
So this is why Democrats fight tooth and nail against national voter ID laws, says Robert. 20 public officials stole elections by buying votes, spending $400,000 to purchase 8,000 votes over several elections. Barack Obama qualified for the primary with 534 signatures. The prosecutor discovered 3 years later that 100 to 200 of those signatures were forged. Barack Obama was never qualified for the primary in Indiana, meaning Barack Obama was no president. Barack Obama's no president, much less a former president. Oh, man. Also, Dominion was brought up by a Republican company, was bought by a Republican company. Remember that? Maduro was captured. He's sharing evidence with federal prosecutors. President Trump is posting videos about Dominion election rigging and says 2020 election fraud will be exposed in 2026. The dominoes are being lined up. And President Trump posted this.
I found that there were about 25,000 ballots that were not printed from the official Dominion PDF ballot. In other words, the printing process, appearance, is completely different than what you would get from a first-generation PDF printing.
We had approximately 25,000 ballots that were not created from the PDF that is used for the election process. So in other words, the election provider comes up with ballots, and it's specific to a geographical area, because the person that lives in this neighborhood might not be voting for the same people that live in that neighborhood or another neighborhood. So here in Maricopa County, from memory, you had 5,012 or something like that, just over 5,000 different permutations and combinations to the ballots. Then that's
That's multiplied by 2 because there's a Spanish version that's available for each one of these ballots. But it's the same ballot with the same people, just in a different language. So we've got we'll just say 5,000 different ballots for now that are created ahead of time, and those are created in PDF. Now, the big reason why is that you have a third party send out mail-in ballots, so those have to be created in advance. And second, for your early voting, you have vote on demand. So in other words, even if I live way out in the corner of the county, but I work downtown, I could go to something downtown that could print my ballot from my area, and I could vote here. It's convenient. A lot of people do that. So these PDFs are created in advance. They're obviously good quality PDFs, and when they're printed, they should look roughly or exactly the same. In this group of ballots, I find that the quality is severely degraded from what a PDF would be as if printed on demand, or if printed by your third-party provider who prints these all the time.
I'm Eric Spakeen. I'm a forensic chemist and a forensic document analyst. That means I deal with all aspects of question documents, when they were made, if they've been altered, changed, or added to, and how long ink has been on paper. I was asked if I had experience in election matters to look at primarily printing processes, machine copied marks, CPS code, which is a counterfeit protection system. And I said that I did, and I traveled to Arizona with 3 other people from my office that I had. Number one is that there were a series of $25,000 ballots that were not printed from the official Dominion PDF ballot.
Not printed from the PDF ballot. President Trump. Big wake-up call coming. Here's chili donuts. Chili donuts.
President Trump went on a posting spree last night on True Social, and the majority of it was talking about election fraud, election 2020 fraud, and of course all the Somalian fraud, which of course will lead into other states, the massive fraud. He's doing this so the public is aware that 2020 is not over. He's also saying these things because of what is coming. And what is coming are mass arrests of the big players that we're hoping to see. He was on the plane yesterday from Mar-a-Lago talking to the press, and he also talked about the Insurrection Act again. So he's talking about that, and he's saying how he took the National Guard out of certain states, but he said he would bring them back in again when needed. He's trying to tell you the reason they're going to be needed again is because there's going to be massive civil unrest in several, probably 14 to 16 states. Because when these arrests come, there's going to be riots. They're going to attempt to cause a civil war. It will absolutely fail. It'll be civil unrest, which will quickly be quelled by the National Guard. It's going to be a lot of chaos coming. So heads up, stay vigilant, and do not fear and do not give up. President Trump is fighting for us. There's lots of drama coming ahead. Please do not give up on this president. He needs our support. There's so much greatness coming. This is our year, and we are going to take.
Where is the best place to hide during martial law?
Guys, I don't know how many videos I have to make, but I'm making another one while I still can. A few days ago, I posted a video on here trying to spread the word.
And whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up.
And we're looking forward to that soon and very soon. This year's very powerful jumpstart It's like we got jumper cables on the car and we're like, rev it up. Let's get this thing going. It's pretty amazing, folks. We had a break. Now we're moving full speed ahead. And just a reminder, together you're strong, we the people. Where we go one, we go all.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, again, we come before your throne in awe of all that you have done in and through so many people, so many flawed people throughout history that has been placed in your love letter to us, the Word of God. Much of it shows how you interject and move on behalf of nations, reaching people, families, communities, and so much more. Everyone was perfectly executed.
Perfectly executed. Everyone was perfectly executed.
Everyone was perfectly executed. Pay attention to his words. He reposted Cue the Storm in case you guys think, oh, they don't really follow you. He posts Cue the Storm. Wonder how come the reporters aren't going after him for that. He's constantly doing that. Cue the Storm put this out. 19,958 votes flipped live on TV from Trump to Biden in Pennsylvania during the 2020 steal. Before the magic trick, Trump had 1,690,000. Biden had 1,200,000. After the switch, 19,958 were gone from president and added to Sleepy Joe. Trump had 1,600,000. Biden had another 1,200,000. Then crickets. They shut down counting nationwide because Trump was crushing in a historic landslide. Coincidence? You decide. He's letting us know. Also, Trump posted a video of a young man exposing the 8 rhinos stopping the SAVE Act from getting passed. Yep. Rand Paul, Tom Tillis, Todd Young, Jerry Moran, Susan Collins, Chuck Grassley, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell. They're caught. With all of this awakening happening, I really like these clips. I mean, we're going to get to some more from Newscomb and how he behaved. And I don't know, this guy almost looks like he's wearing a mask or he's crying or something's wrong with him. Anyway, part of this awakening is happening. And I put this link to this young lady's account if you want to reach out to her on, looks like Instagram. Listen to what's happening, folks, to many across this world.
Did a bit on my spiritual journey as well. And you guys know I am a late waker upper. I must have hit snooze a few.
End. And I'm going to show you just a little bit of this before we finish off today. The music. It's just interesting how this played before he left.
It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. You can't have rigged elections. You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally a good press. I always say it. Strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections, and a fair media. The media is terrible. It's very crooked. It's very biased, terrible.
Charge after another, the special counsel, all of it was a unrelenting attempt to overthrow the government the American people voted for. I cannot find words harsh enough to condemn the conduct of these conspirators, these insurrectionists.
Can't wait.
Because wars are the worst of all. Wars are worse than anything. But we can stop wars because that's sort of up to us. But things like dust flying in the air, wherever COVID comes from or whatever comes.
Dust flying in the air, wherever COVID comes from. Interesting that President Trump would drop this amazing piece of information. USA Go Brock says, I think the boss dropped a huge clue about dust from China. Viruses and dust, a growing concern. Viruses can be present in dust, which can pose a significant risk to human health. Research suggests that viruses can survive on dust particles for extended periods, making it a disease carried in the wind. Airborne. Remember that I Am Legend movie? Characters note that the germ cloud or airborne transmission leading to mass infection, death, and reanimation into undead vampires repelled by sunlight, garlic, and myrrh. So, again, President Trump dropping some very, very interesting information there. And there's going to be a lot of justice coming. He actually pointed this out in his speech.
It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did.
People will be soon prosecuted for what they did. Soon prosecuted for what they did. When he tells you something like that, you betcha something's going to be playing out. And that prosecution's going to be reaching a lot of people. And there's a lot of protesters right now that are being paid to stop it from happening in Minnesota and others. Democrats are even on thread saying the quiet part out loud. They're admitting the outrage against ICE deportations because they will lose congressional seats with their illegals gone. They're putting that out for all to see. Minnesota's in trouble.
The situation in Minnesota reminds us that the West cannot mass import foreign cultures, which have failed to ever build a successful society of their own. I mean, we're taking people from Somalia, and Somalia is a failed, it's not a nation. Got no government, got no police, got no military, got no nothing. And then we have this fake congressperson who they just reported is worth $30 million. You believe this? Ilhan Omar. Talking about the
requirements, making it nearly impossible to prove voter fraud. 7. Lock in the permanent voting majority with campaign promises of lavish benefits and permanent privileges, enshrining generational fealty to the Democrat Party. 8. Win elections. 9. Entrenched single-party rule has been achieved. The best part? Your tax dollars are paying for it. Democrat open borders plan to...
Western Lensman put that out. And you think that it's not making a difference with all this illegal stuff that's been going on. Well, it is. Many folks are changing their minds moving forward. And I tell you, it's not just the illegal stuff that's causing folks to wake up. It's things like this in Virginia that are playing out where they're playing out some laws.
That's the new governor of the Commonwealth.
Spanberger, that are crazy.
Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, ran for that office as a moderate, but the executive order, she talked about is state and local police not cooperating with ICE to get criminal illegal immigrants. There's also a list of, now the Democrats control the legislature, that a number of bills that have been put forward. You can't read it here, but let me just go through it.
So let me show you some of those. 4.3% sales tax on Uber Eats, Amazon, etc. deliveries. Yeah, there you go, Virginia. New sales tax on admissions to a wide variety of businesses. Create 2 new higher tax brackets for 8 and 10% on people making over $600,000. A new 10% tax bracket for anyone making over $1 million. 3.8% investment tax on top of state income taxes. Raise the hotel tax. New personal property tax on landscaping equipment. Ban gas-powered local or leaf blowers. Guaranteed illegal aliens free education. Make it illegal to approach somebody at an abortion clinic. Extend the time absentee ballots can be received after election day to 3 days so they can still, count the ballots. Oh, we need this many. Okay, steal it again. Allow people to cast their votes electronically through the internet so they can hack the internet, go in there and put their own numbers in, folks. Expand ranked choice voting. Extend the deadline for ballot curing to 1 week after election day. Yeah, they've got to do that to continue to steal the elections. And for those out there that would say, oh, that Virginia gets what they voted for. No, that's not what they voted for. We know they steal the elections and they insert these folks so they can do their demonic activity and play this game. And then they want to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Ban the arrest of illegal aliens in courthouses. Remove mandatory minimum sentences. Oh, yeah. Allow localities to install speed cameras. Lower the criminal penalties for robbery. It's amazing. All these folks are like, we want these people taken in. President Trump, he's been hanging out with Epstein, we want the Epstein files released, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, they're like, well, if anybody gets arrested, we don't really want them to stay in there that long. They also have Democrats in Virginia introducing a bill to eliminate mandatory minimum sentencing for rape, manslaughter, assaulting a law enforcement officer, possession and distribution of child pornography, and all repeat violent felonies. But also they are now moving to abolish the one remaining Republican congressional seat in 2026, which would make the map 8D, 8 Democrats. I repeat, 100% Democrats in Congress from Maryland. Virginia Dems are moving too. Indiana Rhinos betrayed MAGA and didn't want to flip their final 2 Dem districts to Republicans. This is what happens when you still have weak, spineless Republicans who know nothing but how to lose. Purge the cancerous loser mentality from the GOP. Also, the California Republican Party filed an emergency application with the Supreme Court to overturn and nullify Gavin Newsom's 2026 Democrat House gerrymander before the midterms. So at least California is doing something. That new map adds 5 blue seats. Strike it down, Supreme Court of the United States. As far as the Green New Deal scam.
Have you killed off the Green New Deal?
It's done. It's dead. So you actually see on the left this debate going on right now where a lot of people within the Democratic Party, they are talking about how they've lost the narrative or the culture war on climate. The problem for them was that they were pushing forth policies that adopted the approach that in order to protect the environment, you have to strangulate out of existence entire sectors of the economy. Conservatives believe that we could protect the environment and grow the economy. We've proven that in the first year of President Trump's term.
Yeah, pretty interesting. You know, Milei went into the World Economic Forum. He was calling all this stuff, their agendas out and more. Pretty interesting.
Time now, and for some strange reason, the West began to turn its back on the ideas of liberty. That is why in this same place in 2024, I stated that the West was in danger as a result of having embraced increasing doses of socialism in its most hypocritical form, which is
bug and change the system, or we are going to see the next 100 years of the same and worse than what we saw in the last 100 years.
Well, this is why I think the midterms are very important. I don't think people understand how important it is.
I don't think so. I don't think Congress has anything to do with it.
I do.
I think Congress is 100% lost cause.
I think right now Trump is going to endorse all the people that he wants in there. The rhinos are going to be removed. A lot of the Ds, they will not be able to function, and they will not be able to take control of the House or the Senate. The rhinos will not be able to take control of the House or Senate. I think Trump is setting it up where we have the ability to put in the Patriots, and once the Patriots are in place, then he can move in the next 2 years and complete the plan that he started with. And I think that's why dividends to the people from the tariff system. The one big beautiful, giving people tax refunds, bringing the interest rate down lower, because the number one issue for people is the economy. When you look at people, it was in 2024, it was the economy. It's still the economy. People are struggling. People want more money. People want a better life. And when you give people a refund, when you give people a dividend, when you lower the fuel price, when you level off inflation, I'm not saying he's getting rid of inflation, but when you level off inflation and you actually allow people to mortgage a house for 50 years, and I know people have a lot of questions about that too, but you allow people to do this and people feel good, people then go to the polls and they vote for the people that Trump is saying this is the people that we need if you want to continue with this. And this is what was done in 2024. The same thing with the economy. With the economy, he was showing, yes, we're going to round up the people. Yes, the border was the second issue. The first issue was the economy. And this is how I do believe that he's going to get the control that he needs, because he needs control of the House and Senate. How do you impeach the federal judges, the House and the Senate? Can it be done now? No. How do you implement all the laws and requirements that he needs to move forward of getting rid of the Federal Reserve, restructuring the Federal Reserve? You need the House and Senate. How do you move forward with different amendments that you want to put into place? you need the House and Senate. You don't have to wait for the states to say, hey, here's a new amendment. Let's change things up. The House and Senate can do that. And then
I think
the states have to then vote. But again, you can do all of these things. You have the power in 2 years, and it can move very, very quickly.
Well, then what are you left with? You're left with the exact same system you had before. You're left with a situation where those who stole all this cash money of ours, the Federal Reserve notes, still have that. They still have that. They still have the power. They just wait for the next administration.
No,
to
that's
get
why
in.
he's building the tariff system. If you look back in history, when we had a tariff system, we didn't have a central bank. When we had a central bank, we didn't have a tariff system. The tariff system is an income producer. The Federal Reserve is a debt system. He's just changing where instead of borrowing it and going internally. It's like if you had a company. If you owned a company and you sold a product and you weren't really selling the product, and you turn around to your employees and say, listen, by the way, to keep the company running, I know I'm paying you $50,000, but I got to take at least $15,000 from you to keep the company going. How many employees would stay with that company? Not many. They say this is ridiculous. The same thing with the United States. The Federal Reserve, they take the money internally from the people. So work harder, harder, harder. I will take your money to keep my criminal syndicate operational. He's creating the tariff system, not just tariffs, but gold, energy sales, technology sales, you name it. I'm talking about the gold card when I said gold. And you have the income come in from the outside. That's external revenue to basically make the country function. So basically, when you start removing the taxes from the people, that's why you started with no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. That was the beginning phase.
There's been a lot of attention on Georgia, Fulton County, and now the raid by the FBI. They took out all those boxes of ballots. They're going to examine them. What is your belief about what happened in Georgia in 2020?
I believe it was stolen 100%. There is no way with Trump support in Georgia it went to Biden.
So here's the other problem with that. It wasn't just an election that favored Joe Biden. It was an election that favored John Ossoff to pick up a Senate seat. And so John Ossoff has occupied a Senate seat. Is that a legitimate outcome?
No, it's all illegitimate. And we can take it back. You know, if we can prove that this election was stolen, then we should be able to get Ketanji Brown Jackson off of the Supreme Court. This is going to have major effects on our government.
Well, here's the problem, Reagan. I look at the Constitution all the time.
That you brought before us to our nation, that's not only for us, but for our children and our children's children. How amazing it is, the thought process of these leaders that we have now. Not only working hard to destroy the enemy, but coming together to say, what are we going to do for the future of this country, for our nation, founded under God? We ask that you would continue to watch over those that are in harm's way, the ships that are going into the Iran area, issues on that side, that good decisions will be made and no loss of life there. As the exposure continues in these very dark areas of Minnesota and Atlanta and other places, California, that those people that are exposing this will be protected. The folks that grabbed the ballots to prove that the election was stolen, that their lives will be protected, because we know the enemy will find them.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
So something of a
post-election, there were 148,319 absentee ballots in Fulton County counted, included in the totals for Georgia. But only 125,784 voters were recorded as having cast an absentee ballot. That is a difference of 25,535 more ballots than voters who are recorded as having registered for and cast an absentee ballot in Fulton County. So that's 25,535 more ballots than voters. And the margin between President Trump and Joe Biden was 11,779.
Can to make this end. Mike Lee said if ID checks are Jim Crow, then so are Democratic national conventions where delegates are required to produce ID to get in. You also need an ID at the labor union conventions. Oh, you need it at the Grammys, the Oscars, the Emmys, the banks, the pharmacies, the hospitals, airports, hotels, gun shops, casinos, schools, Social Security, DMVs, casinos, and employers. Just a reminder. Getting over to all of the Epstein files. It's going to be quite a while to get through it all, but folks are doing their due diligence to ensure that this information is given to the public, and it's pretty frightening, some of it. Stuff we've been talking about for a long
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go.
long time. Rubber Duck, if that wasn't enough, in May 2010, Hillary Clinton is one of these that was found in the files. Secretary of State and Cheryl Mills, Chief of Staff, brought Smartmatic voting systems to run the first election in Haiti after the earthquake, assuring that the Clintons would forever control the flow of gold, children, and adrenochrome from Haiti. There it is right there on your screen. Laura Graham from her to Cheryl Mills, Haiti elections. I told Bob that BC cannot engage on this issue. They spoke to President Clinton about a company. The name is Smartmatic. They just completed a successful election in the Philippines. They also have extensive experience in many places. They are on the top 3 most successful companies in the world.
If only they would speak up, and then we'd feel like we're less of a minority. But we're not a minority because we had an election. Donald Trump won that election. He campaigned on shutting the border. He campaigned on deporting illegal immigrants, as did every prior president. So it's all performative and it's fake. And we can't take it seriously.
Yep. Very good. Performative and fake. And just want to make sure everybody knew, hey, I was there. I'll tell you right now what's going on. What's really going on. You know, there are a lot of memes that came out. This is Billy. Stay back. You're trespassing on my stolen land. Remember, this is stolen land we're on. No one is illegal on stolen land. But if they, have a bunch of illegals show up at their house, they're not going to let them in. Oprah says, nope, get away. Billy says, nope, get away. Keep out. You're not coming to my...
It's about everything that's going on right now. Check this out. Foreigners who live in your land will gain more and more power while you gradually lose yours. They will have money to lend you, but you will have none to lend them. In the end, they will be your rulers. What are we going to do about it? Strangers among us will rise higher while we sink lower. Not because God hates us, but we just got careless. Look around you. Got all these unrecognizable people, foreigners taking office. People wearing turbans and whatnot. They covering up their heads and rags all over their head. This ain't America. Fraud is getting normalized. Rules are being bent. Border laws are treated like suggestions. They're distracting us with all these Epstein files while policies are being written right over our heads. You let them get away with too much. I mean, it's not too late. We just got to act now. We got to vote local. We got to vote at the midterms. We got to demand audits. We got to demand prosecutions. We got to demand that law is enforced. Because you don't lose a nation overnight. You lose it one compromise at a time. We also got to bring back our American pride. Everybody today got to go out and get a flag. I don't care if you put it on your car, get a bumper sticker. I don't want to see a little foreign flag flying all over the place. Don't do that in your own country. It's America. Bring your American flags out. I want to see them on people's houses and their lawn and in their Instagram bios and whatnot. You land in Mexico, show off that Mexican flag. When you land in Jamaica, show off that flag. When you're in America, come on now. Take off that hijab. Come on now. It's America. Put on a baseball cap.
We Scott America. I put that out for all to see. Some other things that we've noticed lately, if you guys saw this yesterday, the music has been taken over by Satan. Education has been taken over. Religion has been taken over. Medicine. All based off of satanic worship. We're going to get more of that in a moment. You know, they control the elections, then they can control and keep the power, and they can hurt so many people. Well, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, A.A.G. Dillon, this is pretty amazing, discussing what the Trump administration is doing to secure our elections.
I want to turn to another important project that you work on day in. You've been doing this for years, but now in the Justice Department, it's having real impact, and that is ensuring election integrity, starting with voter rolls, and then going back and looking at anything all the way back to 2020, which there was an FBI raid last week that we know for sure from the people in Fulton County was about the 2020 election. Tell us where we are in that process and where you think what the American people should know about what you're trying to achieve with your election integrity push.
Right. So I think this is pretty straightforward. I'm surprised the amount of controversy it's created, but under the Help America Vote Act and other federal statutes, states have an obligation to keep their voter rolls clean. This is a basic concept. It applies to the integrity of our federal elections. And, a lot of states are behind in doing it. They don't use all the tools appropriate to do it. And that decreases confidence in the public. And I'm not saying this is all states. I'm saying this is many states. And so what you have is millions of ballots floating around in the mail that may be duplicates or dead people or people who aren't citizens, none of whom are entitled to vote in federal elections. So what we're doing is helping states clean up their voter rolls. And I'm happy to say that we have voluntary compliance now from 14 states. I think we're in the final stages of getting that from an additional 4 states. We have states that are we haven't quite sued them yet, but that's coming this week and next week. And then we have 24 states and one district, the District of Columbia, that I'm currently in litigation with to get their voter rolls. And those cases are in various stages. Some are moving forward. Some are, heading towards appeal. And we are going to keep marching forward until we either get all the voter rolls or we take this case all the way up to the Supreme Court. Because under the 1960 Civil Rights Act, the Attorney General is entitled to review and inspect this data. Now, some of the goofy responses that I've gotten from secretaries of state have included, oh my goodness, this is highly confidential Social Security information. We can't possibly give that to the federal government. I mean, John, that's just silly because the federal government, of course, issues the Social Security numbers and people routinely give it out on a daily basis. They go to the doctor and they go to the DMV, et cetera, et cetera. That's very silly. And also a lot of these states that are not giving the government the voter roll data, they freely give it out to liberal groups so that they can use it to chase votes and voters in a targeted way. So that's kind of two-faced to do that. Now, Georgia is one of the states where we have multiple lawsuits going for the voter rolls, but also for those Fulton County ballots. It was an unusual situation in which there was litigation there. And so Fulton County had preserved those ballots. But now one of my colleagues in the DOJ has also gone in and executed a criminal search warrant after getting a magistrate to sign off on probable cause. And so generally speaking, John, criminal cases take precedence over civil cases in our federal system of justice. And so we're going to figure out the logistics there with the court and with our colleagues and see what those ballots show. I think it was highly unusual. A lot of things that happened in the 2020 election in the swing states, as you mentioned, I was involved in some of those as, a volunteer. And so we're going to see what we see. And whatever the evidence shows, I think it's important for the American people to know what happened in Fulton County and in Georgia and to prevent gross errors or malfeasance from happening again. I think that's just important for the integrity and confidence of the public in our elections. And my final point on this is, in the rest of the world, they don't vote this way. I mean, we like to laugh at the rest of the world being backward or what have you. countries, I mean, the entire Brexit vote in the UK was conducted on a single day, and they got the results after, a couple hours after the polls closed. They're just these paper ballots, and they don't. Send ballots in the mail that can be picked up by other people or voted. Send ballots in the mail that can be picked up by other people or voted. They don't allow people to self-identify as American citizens. That's ludicrous. And so a lot of these things really need to be changed. But at a minimum, I think we can all agree, people should be voting only once.
Watch what ginger does to your wrinkles.
This is my face at 76. No makeup, no filter, just one ginger
once, and it should be only American citizens, and we should not be opening ourselves up for fraud. And so we are here to ensure the integrity of our elections.
How about that? Nice update. Suing the states that are complying in the next couple of weeks, 24 states plus DC. They're making all kinds of excuses. They don't want to share their voter rolls. It's all fraud. The jig is up. They're in trouble. Massive group of House.
Send ballots in the mail that can be picked up by other.
They're making all kinds of excuses. They don't want to share their voter rolls. It's all fraud. The jig is up. They're in trouble. Massive group of House Republicans led by Firebrand Brandon Gill just dropped a bombshell letter demanding Mitch McConnell release the SAVE Act from the Senate Rules Committee and bring it straight to the floor for a vote. Pass the SAVE Act. Also, Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna say they received assurances from Senate Majority Leader John Thune to revive the standing filibuster, effectively breaking through the zombie filibuster to advance the SAVE Act, which requires proof of citizenship and voter ID for federal elections. This comes after the White House meeting with President Trump. In exchange, Luna and Burchett are now leaning toward voting yay on the upcoming funding bill rule. A standing filibuster would force senators to actually debate on the floor. No more silent zombie blocks, allowing passage with 50 votes if Republicans hold firm and Vice President J.D. Vance breaks any tie. I also somebody posted. Oh, here it is. Mila Joy. Senate Leader John Thune reportedly is going to force a standing filibuster, then go to the nuclear option to pass the Save America Act and enact voter ID. If it's true, it'll be pretty amazing. It's not what the Democrats want, man. They're probably freaking out right now. Remember, they want all of the illegals to become citizens overnight.
Short of workers, we have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate...
Anon. Pretty cool. Now we get to the elections. Governor Wes Moore just got smoked on CNN out of all places. Remember, we were talking about, was CNN taking over, and little by little they're leaking out to the leftists just little nuggets here and there to kind of wake people up.
You are pushing hard to redraw Maryland's congressional map to further benefit Democrats. And what that means is eliminating the only Republican-held seat that exists right now. The map, as it stands, is already really gerrymandered, done before you got there. How is it good for democracy to pursue a map that makes your state even less representative?
Well, actually, the map that the Maryland House passed would actually make 6 of the 8 congressional districts more competitive than less. And frankly, one of the most gerrymandered seats inside of the state of Maryland is actually the Republican seat.
Oh, you got to do something about these elections.
Working on the Save America Act, which is going to secure up a lot of things, but secure up our voting. I think people would like to do it, and I think Democrats would too. You know, when you go to voter ID and you ask Democrats, it's polling at 82% with Democrats. I'm not talking about Democrat politicians. I'm talking about Democrats. We have to do something about our voting. We need strong borders. We need a fair press, which we don't have. And very importantly, we need the strong border, the fair press, and we need fair elections. We need elections where people aren't able to cheat. And we're going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get it done. And by the way, it polls, even with Democrats, they want that.
Yeah. We should note voter ID rules do have wide public support, but the vast majority of Democrats on Capitol Hill oppose them.
Oh, fair elections. We need them. I saw this clip, and it's absolutely brilliant regarding all this.
What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
See, this is where my righteous anger pop up, because I know what he's saying is a lie. I live in the South. I've been living in the South my whole life on the Gulf Coast. I go to vote every single time there's an election. And guess what? I show my ID. I write my signature. They check to make sure who I am. I go vote. No problems. Nobody asking me any questions. Nobody making me count the jelly beans in the jar. And quit lumping us in the people of color category. We're Black Americans and we are citizens, and nobody is taking away our right to vote. What they are doing is they're using Black people, going back in the past, provoking emotional manipulation, because they know if they say Jim Crow or slavery, Black people are going to be like, oh my God, he's right. They're coming against us. This has nothing to do with you, Black people. Wake up. People of color he talking about is illegal migrants. They don't have IDs. That's their new voting base. But letting these people use you. I've been having an ID since I was 15 years old. I'm 50 years old. Every Black person I know has an ID. You need an ID to drive. You need an ID to go into a club. You need an ID to fly on a plane. You need an ID to go into another country. You need an ID to buy liquor. You need an ID to buy cigarettes. I don't know any Black person without an ID. Even the poorest of the poor Black people have an ID. JJ down the street that dig in the trash can that I pass by, and he always bothering me about a little bit of money. And when I feeling a little giving, I give him $5. Guess what he do? He goes straight into the liquor store and go buy him some liquor. But before he do, he present his ID. So even the homeless man got an ID. Black people, y'all can keep letting these liberals play in y'all face, but Malcolm X warned y'all about these people. They're using you. This is about getting illegal migrants to vote. They don't have an ID, so they don't want any questions whenever they walk in there. They are the Democratic Party new voting base. They are the new slave.
For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against.
Well, first of all, that's a lie. I've been married twice. Don't judge me. Divorced, and then he died. Now I'm remarried. Now let's get back to it. Both times I presented my birth certificate and photo ID. And then I got a marriage license. I got married. And then if I tarried on getting my name changed, guess what? If I went to vote and I didn't have the right name, all I have to do is bring my marriage license. And we know we got a birth certificate. You know why? Because I needed it to get my marriage license, dummy. Or if you didn't need it, you had to have some type of ID in order to get the marriage license. So you bring both. You bring both. And they check it, and they see that the marriage license is your name change. That is just if you just got married at the time of an election. Most of us women, we get married and we handle business. We go ahead and get that new Social Security card and that new driver's license. Black America, I'm going to need you to wake up. Did you hear what I said? Black America.
I love it. Oh, we got a lot more to get into for the Olympics. There's satanic worship there. The folks that are representing the United States who basically are embarrassed to represent the USA. We're going to show you that in a moment. You know what's happening in this country. I won't buy anything with Trump's name on it. Is that where we're going with all this? New Yorkers are already regretting their vote. If you're looking at your screen, trash is piling up all over the city. All over the city. It's embarrassing. And if you haven't noticed, the opposite of trash is silver. Silver actually hit $82.11 an ounce, up over 27% from the recent low. So, folks, it's going to keep going up and up and up. And we just had an amazing interview with Dr. Kirk Elliott. I'm going to show you that in a minute. President Trump said record stock market and national security driven by our great tariffs. I'm predicting 100,000 on the Dow by the end of my term. Remember, Trump was right about everything. I hope the United States Supreme Court is watching.
What they have done. Did they have sex with a underage child? Did they have sex with a person that was over 18 but against their will? Were they involved in human trafficking? Were they involved in extortion? Were they involved in laundering money? Were they involved in any of these things? These are the things that have to be proven before you can bring charges. So once again, yes, the DOJ, I do believe they're looking into this. I do believe there are probably already grand juries that are already doing this. And we're going to find out who has been indicted later on. Just like right now, aren't there grand juries investigating the Russian collusion, spying on Trump, overthrowing the United States government by cheating in the election? You think there are grand juries now set up for that? Absolutely. Grand juries are private. They don't publicize, hey, guess what? We're looking into this person. Oh, wait, they're innocent. And then it gets out there and you ruin the person's reputation. They keep the investigations very, very quiet. So when you have the House asking Pam Bondi today, and you can see Pam Bondi, just like Kash Patel and the rest, they hold their own. They push back on these people. And when they ask, hey, have you arrested anyone? Well, first of all, if it's in a grand jury and you're looking for an indictment, you're waiting for that. You're waiting for the investigation. And I do believe in the end, they will get it, just like they're going to get everything else. And once again, the wheels of justice move very, very slowly. And it depends on the complexity of the case. It could happen in a month. It could happen in a year. But I do believe in the end, it's all going to happen. Now, what's very interesting is that the Nancy Guthrie's case, there was a person of interest that was detained. Now, it doesn't mean it's the person that is on the video. Cannot. We will just have to see what the outcome will be. Last time, Iran decided that they were better off not making a deal, and they were hit with a midnight hammer. That did not work well for them. Hopefully, this time, they will be more reasonable and responsible. Additionally, we discussed the tremendous progress being made in Gaza and the region in general. There is truly peace in the Middle East. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And yes, the armadas are sailing in there, and they're going to be sitting off the coast. And the Ayatollah and the deep state players, they're going to have to make a decision. They know that Trump has no problem going in and bombing them or using a certain weapon to disable the troops and actually remove those individuals. So let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Now, there are reports that Zelensky's looking to have an election, maybe come this spring, and hopefully there will be peace. He loses, and the rightful person is put in a place where Trump can negotiate peace, or the deep state, the EU, they try to push a war because they know what's coming. If they do not push a war, the clock is ticking down, and they're not going to be staying in their positions that long. And we're going to see the people rise up in all the different countries because the other people in the UK and the people in Germany and Spain and France and all these countries, they pretty much had it. They had it with their installed puppets, and they had it with the EU telling all these countries and what to do. So I think we're going to see major changes coming. Now, they might try to start a war. There might be some type of scare event or something like that, but we'll have to watch this very, very closely. Now, we know that Trump, he basically removed us from the World Health Organization. And basically, the United States is not going to have anything to do with the WHO at this point in time. And Gavin, if you thought that the people of DC were going to convict and have these people stand trial. It's not going to happen. Remember, we have a lot of things right now that we must fix. Because remember, the criminal syndicate, they have infiltrated everything. They've even infiltrated the Republican Party. And this is why we call them rhinos, Republican in name only. And what's very interesting, and Matt Van Swal put this out, a lifelong Democrat in North Carolina, Kate Barr, just admitted on camera she's running as a fake Republican. I'm not a real Republican. I'm running as a progressive in a Republican primary. Think about this for a second. Now, does it make sense? It does. All these people that we say are rhinos, they are. They are Republican in name only. And now it's making sense. And this is why Trump is going to remove this. Now remember, Trump is going to be nominating and backing certain candidates. And you have to remember, Trump is looking at their poll numbers specifically. And there might not be a Republican that you like. You might say, why is Trump doing this? Because he's looking at the board. He's looking at this person and he's saying this person has the poll numbers. There's nobody else that has the poll numbers that can actually win. And he's only going to bet on those people that are going to win. I mean, look what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She wanted to run for the Senate and Trump said, look, I looked at your internal polls. You're not going to be able to do it. She got pissed off and angry and look what happened. So the same thing's going to happen now. The people that he chooses might not be the person that you want, but he knows if he can get the majority of the Republicans that are patriots in the position and these other people are along for the ride, he knows he'll be able to control them. And he knows that we'll be able to win those seats. That's why he is doing it. So if you're questioning certain people, most likely he's seen the polls, he's seen what's out there, and there's no one else that could do it. Would you rather have the other person that you want lose and we lose the seat? No, I don't want that to happen. So he's looking at the he's looking at a strategy, he's looking at the big board, and he's making sure that we have enough patriots in there. And I do believe he'll be able to actually take control of the House and Senate with the people that he is now backing. Now, what's very interesting, it looks like the lower courts right now, they're trying to figure out, the judges I'm talking about, they're trying to figure out a way to bypass the Fifth Circuit ruling upholding Trump's mass detention.
This President's Day, take control of your health care. Right now, All Family Pharmacy is running a President's Day sale with 47% off ivermectin, mebendazole, hydroxychloroquine, NAD+, and GLP weight loss. You don't have to deal with insurance or waiting room
detention policy. So think about this for a second. The lower courts, the judges of the lower courts are trying to figure out a way to circumvent the higher court rulings. So isn't this lawfare? Aren't these the corrupt judges? Absolutely. That's what we're seeing right now. And this is why we need to replace all of these judges. And we have to replace quite a bit. A lot of the attorney generals and state prosecutors, you name it, we got to replace all of it. Now, we've seen a lot of fraud in Minnesota, and Trump is letting us know that the fraud in California is a lot worse than Minnesota. And we're going to see fraud all across the country. Actually, it's their gigantic money laundering system that they set up. It's not just like a one-off thing. It's throughout the entire country. It's their system. This is how they operate it. This is how they stay in control. This is how they funnel the money. And once this comes out, Gavin Newsom's political career is about to be flushed down the toilet. And eventually, all these people are going to be put behind bars. Let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. But I do believe Trump is now showing the world the truth. Now, think about it. He's not just showing the people the truth about what is happening with the money laundering thing. He's also showing the people how they cheated in the 2020 election and how they actually did it. And he started with Fulton County. Now, the deep state players are letting everyone know that if he tries to stop their cheating system, if he tries to implement the SAVE Act, well, they're going to go crazy and they're going to have chaos around the country. Storm Arai put this out and said, this is crazy. The Democrats and Uniparty are in such a panic about elections that they are going on TV and communicating their playbooks to each other. Here is the Maine Secretary of State, Shenna Bellows, also running for governor, laying out the playbook on Morning Joe. Step 1, be really aggressive in the courts. Translation, use corrupt judges and apply as much lawfare as possible. Step 2, Train clerks and local law enforcement on policies and procedures. Translation, make sure you have the right people in place at the polling stations who can execute the steal. Step 3, make voting as accessible as possible. Translation, make sure every illegal can get in there and cast a vote. These people know that Trump is destroying their schemes, and they're truly panicking. I really believe Trump is going to pull off the next phase of Stop the Steal. So basically, you could see that if this doesn't work, what are they going to do? They're going to push chaos every step of the way. And this is what they've been telling us from the very, very beginning. I mean, think about it. Just yesterday, Gallego is telling us that they're going to have chaos across the country. So they're coming up with all these different plans, and you can see they're just laying them out, telling their people in what to do. And when they start to look at the polls and they start to realize that they don't have the votes, they can't do the cheating, and especially if the SAVE Act passes, they're screwed. But yes, Trump put other things into place to make sure that they can't cheat in the elections. And you're going to see, as we get closer and closer to the midterms, they're going to start to realize that they don't have the ability to win, which means they're going to turn towards chaos no matter what. And what's very interesting is when the deep state players say, oh, Trump is doing this for the money. And you look at all those people that had no money and made a lot of money in Congress, or you had presidents that came in that had no money and they made a lot of money, or had some money and made a lot of money. Trump is actually the opposite. Sadie put this out and said, when they tell you President Trump is getting rich being president, remember, he's the only president to leave office with less money. Bill Clinton started off with 1.3 million after 241 million. George Bush, 20 million after 40 million. Barack Obama, 1.3 million, 70 million afterwards. Trump, before 3 billion, after 2.3 billion. Joe Biden, 8 million after 10 million. So who's making the money? Well, it's not Trump. It's them. They've been skimming off the top. They've been getting the kickbacks. They're the ones who've been cheating. And you could see at this point in time, yes, there's a lot of vacant spots, a lot of acting attorneys doing the job right now. And yes, there is a strategy in this. It's called the Scaramucci model. And Joe Lange explains, can I offer a completely different perspective? Game theory. How do you clean up the federal attorney's offices and completely weaponize DOJ across the country? What's the fastest way to do that? Appoint acting attorneys to immediately do the job instead of fighting for confirmation of those attorneys that you want to permanently fill those positions. What's the huge advantage for putting acting attorneys in place? They can do the dirty work ahead of time and clean house in preparation for the permanent confirmation of Trump's nominees. That's exactly what we've been witnessing. So basically, you could see that they're putting acting attorneys in there. Yes, lawfare removed the acting attorneys, but he can continually replace them. Plus, they're doing other work behind the scenes. He knows that the rhinos aren't going to confirm his people. He knows that the rhinos aren't going to impeach the judges. But he can use certain individuals in acting positions to do certain things. And that's pretty much what he's doing right now. But you could see the deep state players, they're panicking right now because of Fulton County. And you could see that the information was released because a judge ordered the unsealing of the affidavit the FBI filed for the raid in Fulton County, Georgia. And the affidavit basically confirms that the FBI has substantiated evidence of voter irregularities. In other words, the FBI is looking for what we were hoping they were looking for. So irregularities means they found cheating. They found things that showed that they went ahead and they cheated. CanCon says, here's certain points of what they're doing here. This investigation has primarily focused on the following deficiencies or defects with the November 3rd, 2020 election and tabulation of the votes thereof. The tabulator machines used by Fulton County are designed to create and save scanned images of each ballot. Fulton County has admitted that it does not have scanned images of all the 528,777 ballots counted during the original count for the 527,925 ballots counted during the recount. Fulton County has confirmed that during the recount of votes, some ballots were scanned multiple times. Ballot images made available in response to public record requests show ballots with unique markings duplicated within the ballot images. So basically, you could see that they don't have a lot of this information, and a lot of the information has been covered up. Liz Harrington says the following, and she's responding to Miles Taylor. Miles Taylor says the basis for the FBI raid in Fulton County appears to be a lot of previously disproven allegations. In other words, the federal government seized the private ballots of American citizens based, at least in part, on conspiracy theories. Liz Harrington says, where were they disproven? Just repeating debunked over and over without actually addressing the facts debunks nothing. The affidavit actually cites Fulton County's own admission they scanned duplicate ballots. Over 17,000 ballot images are missing from the second machine, and all the early votes from the original count, 315,000, were unsigned, giving probable cause that the vote tabulation was likely manipulated because the votes were closed on machines that did not count them. Then we have Ed Krasenstein put this out. The supporting affidavit for the Trump DOJ warrant to search Fulton County election records has been unsealed, and guess what? It literally says that duplicate ballots led to Donald Trump receiving approximately 10% more than his average in Fulton County. Liz Harrington responds to this and says, the introduction of duplicate ballots was intended to make the recount numbers match the original results, which means they had to insert fake votes to support their fraudulent result claiming Biden won. They never had the votes, moron. And she's absolutely right in that. Then she says from the unsealed affidavit of Fulton County raid, Georgia State Election Board member observed ballot images from 2020 that were modified in January 2024. Paul Sperry says Georgia election watchdog Garland Favorito of Atlanta-based VotaGA.org just told me that the FBI raid of Fulton County's ballot warehouse will show that Fulton County-based VotaGA.org just told me that the FBI raid of Fulton County's ballot warehouse will show that Fulton County certified mostly Biden votes for which they have no ballots. There are 17,852 certified votes for which they have no digital ballot images and likely no ballots. In 2020, Biden's margin over Trump in Georgia was a narrow 11,779 votes. Basically, you're going to see that they cheated. And this is why they tried to stop the information from getting out there. This is why they're suing. The cover-up always gets you in the end. Remember, Trump went after a red state. He didn't go to a blue state. He went to a red state. And he's showing the people, look how they cheated. Take what they did there and replicate this. This is what they did across the country. So once again, what happens when it's proven, which I do believe it's going to be, when it's proven that they overthrew the United States government? And it's the same people that are involved every step of the way. Does Trump get his term back? That's the question. There's nothing in the Constitution. This has to go to the Supreme Court, doesn't it? But think about this. Rasmussen Reports put this out. It said the first U.S. election run by Smartmatic and the Venezuelan engineers was the 2008 Democratic primary in the state of Illinois. The name of the voting system machines used were DRE. Dre. That's interesting. And who was involved in that? Was it Obama? Was it Clinton? Very interesting. And think about all these D's and the fake news that are saying that it's racist to ask for.
Before we close out.
Overthrew the United States government. And it's the same people that are involved every step of the way. Does Trump get his term back? That's the question. There's nothing in the Constitution. This has to go to the Supreme Court, doesn't it? But think about this. Rasmussen Reports put this out. It said the first U.S. election run by Smartmatic and the Venezuelan engineers was the 2008 Democratic primary in the state of Illinois. The name of the voting system machines used were DRE. Dre. That's interesting. And who was involved in that? Was it Obama? Was it Clinton? Very interesting. And think about all these D's and the fake news that are saying that it's racist to ask for ID. That's absolutely ridiculous. Elon Musk says, for those fools liars who say it's racist to require ID to vote, it obviously is not. Why do majority of black countries require ID to vote? And look at all the countries that are listed. all the different black countries. Is it racist there? No, it is not. So let's go back a little bit in time, and RNC Research put this out. This is a throwback asking a lot of white women and white men, do you think we should have voter ID or not? Now, when you listen to them, you're going to start to understand that they've been brainwashed and they're actually the racist ones. Then the host decides, I'm going to ask a couple of black people. I want to see if this is true. And the black people are surprised. What are you talking about? I have ID. I know how to vote. I know where to go. It's not racist. And they look kind of surprised. Take a listen.
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works. A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data. For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right?
That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that. It's on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone has data?
Mm-hmm.
You can actually
unlimited.
Unlimited data.
Mm-hmm. I use my phone as a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of black people?
They're pretty much ignorant. That's why my thought process on it.
I just think that's ignorant. Ignorant.
Ignorant. That's the ignorant. That's the
very,
word I hear
very
a lot.
ignorant.
Ignorant.
Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you're putting people in a category and you have not.
So right there, that whole thing is debunked right now. And you could see that these people have been brainwashed. They're really trying to tell everyone they don't have the ability to get an ID. They don't have the ability to use the ID. They don't have the smarts to use the internet. I mean, think about what they're saying here. They don't even know they're saying it. Absolutely unbelievable. And this is what the D's, these are the people that D's are talking to. These are the people that fake news is talking to. But a lot of people now are waking up. A lot of people are saying that this is all a bunch of BS. And what's very interesting is Representative Anna Paulina Luna is telling John Thune that you don't have to nuke the filibuster. She says, we're asking that you return the filibuster to its original intent, or what is known as the talking filibuster. The Senate was never designed in a way that bills could die without even a minute of debate. Return to the original intent of the filibuster and pass the Save America Act. More than 80% of Americans support voter ID, and it is time Republicans got it done. Your continued refusal to return the Senate and the use of the filibuster to its original intent so we can pass the Save America Act will have consequences and force us in the House to use every leverage we have to get it passed one way or another. You can be the Senate majority leader to get it done. We are counting on you. And she's absolutely right. And once again, ask yourself a simple question. Why would he be pushing back? Oh, is it because McConnell's telling him to? Is it because he's a rhino? Is it because he doesn't represent the people? I think people now are seeing the truth. There's no question whatsoever. It should be held to a vote. Again, if he doesn't do it, as the evidence shows that there's rigging of election, that we need voter ID, he's going to be trapped in all of this. Maybe that's what he's waiting for. So this way he's off the hook. But let's see how this all plays out. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that Karma Patriot, she is looking at Lindsey Graham right now, and she's saying that Lindsey Graham is the Iron Eagle. Now, in the very beginning, I thought it was Chris Miller, and it's a colonel who stops at the rank of colonel and decides to go into the private sector. And it looks like Lindsey Graham might fit this mold. And think about it. We've seen Lindsey Graham with Trump a lot of places, playing golf and other places. Has Lindsey Graham been feeding Trump information? Is he a mole? Maybe, maybe not. But this is what Karma Patriot put out. Lady Lindsey Graham's comments after a closed-door Iran intel briefing. I don't know where the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium exists, but it wasn't part of the target set. As I was saying, Syria. The deep state funded in Iran.
If you're rubbing expensive creams on your face, you're aging it faster. This is the ginger trick that made me look 40, even though I'm almost 70. And you know what the best part is? It's natural, cheap, easy to prepare. Of the target set. As I was saying, Syria. And it wasn't part of the target set because it most likely no longer exists. But guess the deep state hasn't figured that part out yet. So she's talking about Lindsey Graham. And it says, for all his faults, we got to remember he was an officer in the Judge Advocate General's Corps, a JAG corporal, and an Iron Eagle in the United States Air Force. So as much as I cannot stand the guy, the Q drops won't let me completely dismiss him or ignore the important role he played in the Kavanaugh hearings. When you factor in Trump's early endorsement of LG plus JAG plus the drops, it leads me to believe that President Trump needed Graham to stick around in Congress a little longer for something important that requires his unique experience in military law. If I remove my personal emotions and go bird's eye view, certainly it seems like the markers are all suggest that Lindsey Graham is, at the very least, plays an important role in Trump and the good guys' plan. And when you look at this, you could see that Lindsey Graham has been hanging around Trump quite a bit. He plays golf with him. I do believe he goes to his resorts, and he's with him quite a bit. So it looks like Trump might have been using Lindsey Graham from the very, very beginning. And the other thing that's very interesting is that Trump, he decided to repost something on Truth, and it's about old people, and that you have to be careful of old people because if you mess with them, they're going to get back at you. Take a listen.
Expect this. Watch this.
I know I shouldn't have done this. I am 83 years old. I was in the McDonald's drive-thru this morning. The young lady behind me leaned on her horn and started mouthing some ugly things because I was taking too long to place my order. So when I got to the first window, I paid for her order along with my own. The cashier must have told her what I had done because as we moved up, she leaned out her window and waved to me. She began mouthing, thank you, probably feeling embarrassed that I had repaid her rudeness with kindness. When I got to the second window, I showed the server both receipts and I took her food too. Now she has to go back to the inn and start all over again. Don't blow your horn at old people. We've been around for a long time.
Now, the question is Trump saying, listen, I might be old, but I know what I'm doing. I've been around a long time. And if you're coming at me, I'm going to get you. I think that's totally true. I think he's going to get the deep state players. And I think he's now leading them down this path of no return. And as they keep digging their hole, it gets worse and worse for them. And the people of the country are waking up every step of the way. And I do believe in the end, we're going to have the patriots in place to take this to the next level. And yes, the deep state players are going to try to stop everything that's happening. They're going to push back with everything they have. There's going to be chaos. There'll probably be a scare event. But in the end, know that Trump has complete and utter control. He's leading them down this path. He knows what they're about to do. And this is really going to wake up the country like never before. And if you really think about it, you can see the deep state players, they're struggling right now. Everything they tried to do to get Trump has completely and utterly failed.
Order in the court.
Former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters was sentenced to 9 years behind bars yesterday for a data breach.
Order in the court.
Former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters was sentenced to 9 years behind bars yesterday for a data breach scheme inspired by Trump's false claims of voter fraud.
It hurts. Let go of me. Give me my
Do not
hit.
You are no hero. You abused your position, and you're a charlatan.
The idea that you won't respect elections if you lose is antithetical to a democratic republic.
Earlier this week, a federal judge ruled, listen to this, that Tina Peters, a 72-year-old Gold Star mother, must stay in prison while she appeals her case. And since that ruling, inside that prison, Tina Peters has been attacked. And I don't mean attacked just in one way, but in multiple ways, multiple times.
Tina Peters been assaulted in prison, and was she charged with a felony for getting assaulted, sir?
A 20-year-old inmate came in behind her and started to attack her from behind. The part where she was defending herself was seen. So they're basically charging her. They put her in the hole for an undetermined amount of time.
It's sickening what they're doing to her. This is effectively a death penalty for Tina Peters, because she dared to question election results.
Is there no answer here?
Tina Peters is a witness to the 2020 theft of an election.
Tina was performing a federal duty when she preserved election records before the Secretary of State destroyed them.
100% she's a political prisoner. They're holding her hostage.
What in the hell are we doing to get the girl out?
They should let her go. Let her out.
Order in the court.
Scheme.
Arizona, benign Arizona. I think there's a Georgia-like event in Arizona, like what happened in Fulton County. I think tomorrow is a likely day. So I just want to put that on your calendar. Keep an eye tomorrow. I see Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem going down there. Now, why is that important? The Homeland Security Department oversees the election machines and election counting capabilities. CISA and the Homeland Security Department deal with that. The FBI Justice Department deal with criminal violations. So she's down there for a reason. And I think my reporting suggests that there'll be some sort of important election integrity event tomorrow, Maricopa County in Arizona. That'll be the second state after Georgia to have that sort of treatment. So put it on your calendar, get it ready, and we'll have you covered here at Real America's Voice and justthenews.com.
Somebody gave that information to John, and John's letting folks know, and the enemy needs to hear this too. Coming to Arizona next for election integrity. We're going to check those ballots, folks. Stand by. And Kristi Noem's going to be there. First Tulsi Gabbard in Georgia, now Kristi Noem. Oh my goodness. We know that John was approached. Well, we know what we think we know. That John was approached by a team of individuals that said he's doing a pretty good job and pretty much have him connected to the Q board in many ways. You know, pretty interesting.
It's called the Save America Act. We've changed the name. It's the Save America Act. And then
it's the Save America Act. Do you guys know what we're talking about there? Media, just want to make sure we spell it out for you.
Democrats are against it. I heard one of them saying, we will stop the Save America Act. No, we're trying to save America. And it has to do with largely voting. And basically, it's got three very simple points. It's got voter ID, photo ID, but voter ID with a photo, right? It's got the confirmation of U.S. citizenship. You have to be a citizen. So you have a vote, you have an ID. That's about a 99% one. And I think 90% with Democrats. Then you have confirmation U.S. citizenship. That's about a 99% one with Republicans, about 86% with Democrats, except Democrat politicians because they cheat on elections. And then you have no mail-in ballots. And there would be no mail-in ballots, very important. You know, we're the only country in the world that does a system like we do. We're the only country in the world that has mail-in ballots. The way we do this is unbelievable. It guarantees cheating. So it's no mail-in ballots with the exception of disability, illness, military, or if you're traveling, you can get an exemption. You know, if you happen to be out of the country for a good reason, you can have an exemption. So with exceptions, it's no mail-in ballots, and that will assure the security of our crooked elections. We have crooked elections.
Crooked elections. They have to be reminded over and over and over again. Zeke Arkman said, Democrats, quote, we can't pass the SAVE Act because black folks don't have ID. Black folks say, no, we have ID. All of us. Democrats, well, we can't pass the SAVE Act because women who get married won't have proper ID. Married women say, no, we have ID that matches our new last name. Wasn't an issue. Democrats, well, we can't pass the SAVE Act because poor people don't have access to Kinko's. Poor people. Listen, we're poor, but we ain't that poor. Democrats, you're all supposed to fall in line. You're supposed to fall in line.
You're an American citizen and get registered to vote, and you got to show a dadgum photo ID to vote. And that ID, 213 Democrats used their IDs to vote yesterday. Nobody hollered about racism there. It's just ridiculous, folks. This thing is just about corruption and it's about control. And the Democrat Party ought to be ashamed. I mean, it's just pathetic. That's not any way to treat people. We ought to have safe elections. And they are fighting us tooth and nail. Hopefully we can get enough votes in the Senate and it'll happen. I believe Leader Thune is on the right path, getting it there. And her sponsor, Chip Roy, and the House did a great job. We passed it 3 dadgum times. And now the Senate, Senator Mike Lee, I was with him last night at supper, and he's the man. He's the man. I'm a fan. Big time.
Big time. He thinks it's going to pass through. You know, Senator Dave McCormick, well, he lit up the Senate floor demanding passage of the SAVE Act.
Mr. President, I consider myself uniquely qualified when I say that every vote matters. In 2022, I lost my first statewide election in Pennsylvania by 950 votes. That's 14 votes per county. I won my second election in 2024 by 15,000 votes of over 7 million cast. These incredibly narrow races, each of which had electoral issues of their own, show just how important it is that our elections run smoothly, fairly, and only legitimate votes are counted. And right now, the bottom line is we cannot stand in this chamber and claim there is not a problem. There is a problem. And the people who put us here agree.
There you go. Somebody's making a stand. Then you had Lindell TV trying to talk to Susan Collins, refusing to support the Save America Act.
Now that the Save America Act has passed the House, can we count on you to support it in the Senate?
I'm looking at it. The House made some significant changes. For example, You would not have to prove citizenship every time you vote. That's a good change. Makes sense to have a requirement the first time when you register, but not every time. I've long supported voter ID. There's some issues on what are federal and what are state. So I'm still this is a work in progress, but I've got to go to the health committee.
Thank you.
Yep. So give her a call. 202-224-2523. Call our office. Demand accountability. Gonna need it. We get into very interesting take from Mr. Pohl about Pam Bondi playing the greatest trap in political history. You don't want to miss it here in a moment.
Citizenship for illegal immigrants. Multiple federal judges have ruled that illegal aliens who avoid deportation for years can acquire what amounts to common law citizenship. By the way, that's not something in this country. They pretty much made it up. It's in the UK, but not here. Amuse says activist judges found a way to ignore both federal law and rulings from a superior court. They've invented a new concept called common law citizenship that allows an illegal immigrant who successfully evades deportation for an unspecified number of years inherits the same rights citizens enjoy. You know the next steps are voting rights. So they just created a law? No, judges are supposed to enforce the law. They do not create the laws. So let's use an example. If a bank worker embezzles small amounts of money over the course of 10 years, but is otherwise a good employee, these judges believe that the employee is entitled to keep the money when they finally get caught. I mean, really think about what they're saying here. And this is not legally recognized in the United States. The UK, they have something like that, but not here. So once again, what are they doing? They're trying to stop Trump every step of the way. And when you look at Minnesota, you could see that dark money was flowing into Minnesota to create the riots there. Nick Sorter put this out and said, a witness testified under oath to Senator Hawley that over $60 million in dark money has already flowed to funding the Minnesota riots. This funding is coming from 14 groups, and a lot of it is coming from where? George Soros, Arabella Funding, Neville Roy, Singham Funding Networks, Tides, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Funding Network. They have billions and billions of dollars that he shut down the country. Take a listen.
Didn't recommend locking anything down. And the record will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences, which it did.
Once again, these people lie and they lie and they lie. And here's another clip when Fauci was out there saying, listen, if you get
Close the board and tally the vote. With the yeas being 90 and the nays being 65, House Bill 1 is declared third read and passed. Gentleman from Greene County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next order of business.
Massive. Democrats' attempt to overturn Missouri's new congressional map that reduces Missouri Democrats to only one seat in Congress has been blocked by a judge. Nick Sorter put this out. Thank God this should be a green light for other red states to follow suit. The judge ruled Missouri's governor had full constitutional authority to call a special legislative session to redraw the maps, and they'll be in effect for the 2026 election. So all that evidence that foreign powers meddled in the 2020 election will result in John Thune ultimately caving on the filibuster, and the Save America Act will get passed. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative in America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people. This is from John Solomon. And we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed around with our election system more than we know. And I think when senators realize their state could have been targeted, there's going to be a different debate in America. I think there's some big, significant, and very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections. And I think the president's going to unveil this to the public.
Meanwhile, I want to talk a little bit about how Make America Great Again has become a major improvement in making America safe again.
So I played that clip for you already. And just understanding how this is working, Shenna Bellows gives an honest admission in Maine. Listen to this.
I think the greater concern, what we saw with the recent ICE surge, was people, and I know many of you were involved in the mutual aid networks of support. We saw people afraid to go to work, afraid to go to school. Absenteeism in the greater Portland school districts was over 20%. We saw people afraid to go get groceries. And so my concern becomes, if you're afraid to go to work, you're going to be afraid to go to vote. And so then that's where our awesome absentee voting, protected by Maine Voices, Maine Votes, and constructed over years, we have 30 days of no excuse absentee voting. People can call their clerk and get their ballot. They can go online and request it and have it mailed to them. They can make arrangements to get their ballot in other ways, or they could go in person to the clerk's office early.
So why would someone who's avoiding ICE deportation be voting? Across Maine, coordinated effort to provide groceries and other support to non-citizens who are staying indoors to avoid deportation. So Shenna Bellows is letting you know, hey, we can't win without these illegals voting for us. So if you guys want me to continue to remain in power and steal these elections, we need them to vote. If you don't want me around, they're going to get deported and we're going to have a real election and I'm not going to be in power anymore. That's my translation. So then you go to Fox News, throwing out all their numbers of what they believe, where they believe the needle is turning for Democrats versus Republicans. J.D. Vance isn't putting up with it.
Congressional vote preference. This was at the end of January, so just a few weeks ago. Of all voters, Democratic candidate preference at 52, GOP candidate at 46. We've got a long way to go, but obviously that number would not be good for the majority.
That would not be good. I will say, as much as we love Fox News, we always think Fox News has the worst polling. Me and the president agree on that. I'm sorry.
I can show you other ones that are very similar. But since they're ours, I show ours.
But here's the fundamental issue in the midterms. And I think.
Love it. Love that they're getting called out for what they're doing. I'm sick and tired of everybody thinking that Fox News is perfect and they're fully conservative and all they do is support. I think I told you guys before, and I'll share this again. We're going to have somebody on the cruise with us, by the way, for those who join us on the cruise, who's going to explain what happened to him and how he woke up by watching Fox News, realizing the psyop that they're pulling there. Oh, yeah. They're not who they say they are. They have to constantly give you all the negative, and then they throw in a little positive to make you feel all good, and then they fill you up with negative constantly.
We're going to make this argument to the American people, and the American people are obviously, they're going to be the ones who make this decision, is look, if you go back to the Biden administration, the average American lost about $3,000 in take-home pay during the 4 years that Democrats were in charge. In the first year of the Trump administration, average Americans have gained about $1,200. Now, there's kind of a good news, bad news dynamic there. If you're looking at it from the perspective of the last year, Americans have done better. If you're looking at it from the perspective of the Biden administration, we're still digging out of the hole the Democrats put us in. And I think that the question we're going to put to the American people is, do you want to give the government back over to the people who frankly burned down the house and made most Americans much less wealthy and much less safe? Or do you want to double down on the president's leadership, which has helped us recover from some of the problems caused by Joe Biden?
That's right. Get him, JD. So we're going to have some more on all of the...
If they fix homelessness, there's no money. If they clean up the forests and the forests aren't burning down and burning people's homes, there's no money. They can say, oh, we don't have enough money. We have to fight this again. And this is how they fund their system. This is what they do. Remember, it's their system. You're in their system to work for them to fund their system. And they're getting angry. They're getting pissed off because they don't want their system to end. Now, think about it. Susan Rice came out the other day letting everyone know that she's going after the people of this country. As soon as they get their power back, actually, they're going to be going after the people in this country way before that, because when they look at their internal polls and they see they have no chance of cheating or winning the elections, well, that's when they're going to go crazy. But since she said this, Netflix stock is now plunging at the market open, following his refusal to fire former Obama official Susan Rice after she threatened retribution against supporters of President Trump. Think about that for a second. And think about what else we've come to find out. Allie put this out and said, nothing to see here, just Epstein telling Bannon he was on the phone for 2 hours with Susan Rice's lawyer discussing her treasonous actions in the White House. Epstein thought the focus on Flynn was clever. Awaken Outlaw said, well then, what do we have here? It looks like absolute confirmation that Obama White House did, in fact, target General Flynn for takedown. Oh, and that Jeffrey Epstein congratulated them on doing so. Blows some crappy, salacious narratives about him right out of the water. And that is absolutely true. And think about it. Why was she getting so upset? Why is she so angry? Is it because there might be a grand jury that's looking into what she's done here? I think
you've got some breaking news and stories you're bringing up at Just the News. Give us you're the pathfinder. Tell us what's dropping and what's about to drop.
What we have just a few minutes ago and put up on Just the News is a story that we got thousands of pages of documents. We had to sue for multiple years with the help of America First Legal to get Fani Willis to finally cough up. What did they show? They show that Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney who brought the first state case against Donald Trump that mirrored or mimicked the Jack Smith case against President Trump, was in deep collusion with the Justice Department, with the January 6th Democrats, and the Biden White House. Yep, Joe Biden's White House said, we'll waive Donald Trump's executive privilege for you. The Justice Department said, we'll waive and approve your 2E requests, which are requests to get federal workers to help you build a state case against a federal or national figure. The fix was in. And why is this important? Because this is the best.
Democrats, when they come back in power, are going to play by the old rules. They've got another thing coming. There'll be an accountability agenda. This is not going to be an instance of forgive and forget. That's interesting. Jesse Kelly says, the only lesson the communists learned from 4 years of Joe Biden's tyranny was that they didn't do enough. That's the only lesson they've ever learned. They cannot be reasoned with. You can only smash them or lose. There is no third option. Now, once again, do you think they're going to wait until they win? Yes, they will round up people. Yes, they'll do all these things, impeach Trump if they win the midterms. What do you think they're going to do before the midterms? Do you think they're just going to sit quietly and say, I hope we win this? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. So basically, they're going to do this before the midterms. And when they win the midterms, that's when they'll have the leverage to do everything else. But again, they're not going to win. I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they know the playbook. Now, Lara Loomer put this out, and Trump responded to it, and this is what she says. Netflix board member Susan Rice says corporations who took a knee to Trump will face an accountability agenda from the elected Democrats if they win the midterms in 2026 and the 2028 presidential election. Does Netflix stand by their board member threatening half of the country with weaponized government and political retribution for choosing who they wanted to vote for as president? This is an anti-American as it gets, and Netflix is proving every day that they are anti-American woke company. Rice is basically openly saying that Democrats will go after anyone and everyone who supported Trump, embracing weaponized lawfare against potentially millions of Americans. Making this more horrifying is the fact that if the Netflix Warner Brothers merger is approved, positive messaging of the Democrats' upcoming witch hunts against Trump from Barack Hussein Obama and his anti-white racist wife, Michelle Obama, he has now fired the litigator that was appointed by the Virginia judges to replace Lindsay Halligan as interim U.S. attorney. There's only one problem with all of this. Remember, Lindsay Halligan, she was pressing charges against Comey and Letitia James, and the only way that they could stop this, because remember, it was an open shut case because they signed documents, was to get rid of the acting attorney, the interim attorney. So they went after Lindsay Halligan. And now they're saying, we're going to appoint the one that we want. Well, the judges don't have the ability to appoint the interim. Following his refusal to fire former Obama official Susan Rice after she threatened retribution against supporters of President Trump. Think about that for a second. And think about what else we've come to find out. Allie put this out and said, nothing to see here, just Epstein telling Bannon he was on the phone for 2 hours with Susan Rice's lawyer discussing her treasonous actions in the White House. Epstein thought the focus on Flynn was clever. Awaken Outlaw said, well then, what do we have here? It looks like absolute confirmation that Obama White House did, in fact, target General Flynn for takedown. Oh, and that Jeffrey Epstein congratulated them on doing so. Blows some crappy, salacious narratives about him right out of the water. And that is absolutely true. And think about it. Why was she getting so upset? Why is she so angry? Is it because there might be a grand jury that's looking into what she's done here? I think what
you've got some breaking news and stories you're bringing up at Just the News. Give us you're the pathfinder. Tell us what's dropping and what's about to drop.
What we have just a few minutes ago and put up on Just the News is a story that we got thousands of pages of documents. We had to sue for multiple years with the help of America First Legal to get Fonnie Willis to finally cough up. What do they show? They show that Fonnie Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney who brought the first state case against Donald Trump that mirrored or mimicked the Jack Smith case against President Trump, was in deep collusion with the Justice Department, with the January 6th Democrats, and the Biden White House. Yep, Joe Biden's White House said, we'll waive Donald Trump's executive privilege for you. The Justice Department said, we'll waive and approve your 2E requests, which are requests to get federal workers to help you build a state case against a federal or national figure. The fix was in. And why is this important? Because this is the
Democrats, when they come back in power, are going to play by the old rules. They've got another thing coming. There'll be an accountability agenda. This is not going to be an instance of forgive and forget. That's interesting. Jesse Kelly says, the only lesson the communists learned from 4 years of Joe Biden's tyranny was that they didn't do enough. That's the only lesson they've ever learned. They cannot be reasoned with. You can only smash them or lose. There is no third option. Now, once again, do you think they're going to wait until they win? Yes, they will round up people. Yes, they'll do all these things, impeach Trump if they win the midterms. What do you think they're going to do before the midterms? Do you think they're just going to sit quietly and say, I hope we win this? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. So basically, they're going to do this before the midterms. And when they win the midterms, that's when they'll have the leverage to do everything else. But again, they're not going to win. I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they know the playbook. Now, Laura Loomer put this out, and Trump responded to it, and this is what she says. Netflix board member Susan Rice says corporations who took a knee to Trump will face an accountability agenda from the elected Democrats if they win the midterms in 2026 and the 2028 presidential election. Does Netflix stand by their board member threatening half of the country with weaponized government and political retribution for choosing who they wanted to vote for as president? This is an anti-American as it gets, and Netflix is proving every day that they are anti-American woke company. Rice is basically openly saying that Democrats will go after anyone and everyone who supported Trump, embracing weaponized lawfare against potentially millions of Americans. Making this more horrifying is the fact that if the Netflix Warner Brothers merger is approved, positive messaging of the Democrats' upcoming witch hunts against Trump from Barack Hussein Obama and his anti-white racist wife, Michelle Obama, he has now fired the litigator that was appointed by the Virginia judges to replace Lindsay Halligan as interim U.S. attorney. There's only one problem with all of this. Remember, Lindsay Halligan, she was pressing charges against Comey and Letitia James, and the only way that they could stop this, because remember, it was an open shut case because they signed documents, was to get rid of the acting attorney, the interim attorney. So they went after Lindsay Halligan. And now they're saying, we're going to appoint the one that we want. Well, the judges don't have the ability to appoint the interim attorney. That comes from the executive branch. And Todd Blanche corrects them. Here we go again. EDVA judges do not pick our U.S. attorney. POTUS does. James Hunley, you're fired. So he just got rid of that person. So the judges, they don't pick the people for the executive branch. I mean, they're really going way, way out to the left there. Because again, they're corrupt, they're blackmailed, and again, Todd Blanche is putting them in their place. And they've done this multiple times. So once again, according to the Article 2 of our Constitution, the executive branch, POTUS, picks the U.S. attorney. So once again, this has failed. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that there's a new FBI memo has confirmed that in 2022, Joe Biden was involved in the raid of Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. Isn't that interesting? So this memo that came out shows that the Biden White House facilitated DOJ's criminal probe against Trump. The memo showed that the then White House Deputy Counsel, Jonathan Sue, had conversations with the FBI, DOJ, and National Archives as early as April. Those conversations took place after the voluntary return of 15 boxes of classified document and other materials, according to other reports. So basically, Biden was completely involved in this, and you can see this was a coordinated effort. Now, I think we've known that for quite a while. We know that Biden pretty much weaponized the DOJ, the FBI, because again, those branches in the executive branch, those agencies, they were designed to protect the criminal syndicate, to go after the opposition. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And now with FBI 2.0, DHS 2.0, DOJ 2.0, CIA 2.0, you could see they restructured the entire agencies to actually stop crime and work for the people and work for POTUS in this country instead of protecting the criminal syndicate. So everything was restructured. And now the CIA announced that it was retracting or revising.
It's one simple question, and this
against all politicians will never get elected again. And that includes the rhinos. And what's very interesting, and the Muse put this out, is that Representative Tim Burchett says, and he confirmed the rumor, that McConnell's chief of staff, Terry Carmack, won't allow the election integrity bill out of committee to give Thune and Cornyn cover for not bringing the bill to the floor for debate. So basically, Thune and Cornyn, they're just playing the game. And McConnell's chief of staff, Terry Carmack, is holding it back. And Thune and Cornyn probably out there as Rhino saying, yes, we want to pass it. Yes, we want to do this. But again, it's a trick, just like everything else. And remember, Trump in the end, what does he have the ability to do? Once he shows the people of this country that the elections are rigged, and they do it by not showing voter ID, they do it by using mail-ins, they do it by using the machines, they do it by multiple days of election days, because then it turns into election weeks, that becomes a national security issue, which means as the president, he can say, this is national security, it's a threat to our country, and everyone must use a voter ID. I think he wants to follow the Constitution. He wants Congress to do the right thing. But in the end, no matter what happens, Trump is going to win. Remember, he planned this security issue, which means as the president, he can say, this is national security. It's a threat to our country, and everyone must use a voter ID. I think he wants to follow the Constitution. He wants Congress to do the right thing. But in the end, no matter what happens, Trump is going to win. Remember, he planned this out from the very, very beginning, and he traps the deep state players in all these things, gets them to do the things that he wants. So this way, he could actually use the other things that he's been keeping on the side. For example, the tariffs. He used the weakest statute, so he would get a ruling on the strong statutes. And he also got a ruling that he can't charge anything, but he can block all the other nations. He can block their goods. He can do all these other things. So if anyone tries to say, oh, he's not allowed to block goods, the Supreme Court already ruled. In the dissent, they already gave him the ability to use the other statutes. Trump is always going to win. And this is what...
Rail. Off limits to even mention in polite company. They were importing voters. We have an answer to that question now. And while they were doing that, they were telling you this.
Well, there certainly is not an open border.
The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system.
The border is closed. The border is secure.
I just laid that really clear. It would be wrong to think that the border is open. It is not open.
They were importing Democratic voters, lying to the American public, and now we have the proof. According to the Social Security Administration, the crime started immediately after Joe Biden took office in 2021. 270,000 illegals were given Social Security numbers. That's about the population of Hartford, Connecticut. That number would grow a year later to 590,000 illegals getting Social Security numbers, about the size of Cincinnati, Ohio. A year later, 2023, 964,000 illegals got Social Security numbers, about the size of San Francisco. And in Joe Biden's final year in office, on his way out the door, that number skyrocketed to just over 2 million illegal aliens getting Social Security numbers, roughly the size of our third biggest city, Chicago. In all, more than 3 million illegal aliens that crossed the border when Joe Biden was president now have Social Security numbers today that we know about, and it gets worse. According to DOJ, 1.3 million illegal aliens are currently on Medicaid, and at least 500,000 now have a driver's license, and they are killing Americans behind the wheel. Over the last 4 years on U.S. roads, dozens of deaths that didn't need to happen. And some of these illegal aliens actually voted in the 2024 election. Something we were told was not happening is now a reality.
The Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States.
We actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records, and we found people here registered to vote. In this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote, and we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service. Already.
They have made that information public. Anybody who's curious can look at it. Do you still think that Elon Musk is trying to destroy Social Security? Do you still think that he's trying to destroy Medicare or Medicaid? We talked about that for weeks. We do not. And we think you need to know the truth. We can also confirm what we have suspected all along, that when Joe Biden said this, he absolutely meant it.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
He meant every word of that. For years, we would ask, why would anyone let 15 million criminals into the country illegally? They're here illegally. That makes them criminals. Why would any leader want to do that? Why would anyone want to fundamentally change the racial and ethnic makeup of the greatest country on earth, America? And now the answer is crystal clear. This was their plan all along. Democrats know that the only way their broken party can win elections in the future is to import voters. So that's exactly what they did, while telling the public that the border was closed. The border was closed, and they said that over and over again for 4 years. And the other option is simple. Joe Biden has got dementia. He was never in control or in charge, and as a result of that, bad actors were likely running the White House? The answer now is probably a combination of the two. But America needs answers, and Republicans have to investigate and possibly prosecute whoever perpetrated the greatest single crime in American history, and that's what this is. 15 million illegal aliens in this country in a 4-year period. These people should not be here. And it's time for Republicans to start doing exactly what Democrats did to them. People don't like the word revenge. Why not? It's time for that if it's warranted. When Donald Trump left office after his first term, Democrats prosecuted everyone. Steve Bannon went to jail. Peter Navarro went to jail. Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Rick Gates, George